Good evening, we're back. I'd like to start with our land acknowledgement, and we recognize that the Mount Diablo School District sits on the territory of the Confederated Villages of Lishan, the ancestral and unceded land of the Bay Miwok and Northern Yokut, the successors of the sovereign Verona Band of Contra Costa County. As members of the MDUSD community, it is vitally important that we not only recognize the history of the land on which we learn, but also we recognize that the land we inhabit and learn on is the ancestral land of these people who are alive and flourishing members of MDUSD and broader Bay Area communities today. You can stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, review and potential approval of our agenda. Roll call. Oh, really? No. Oh, we did it before. I'll acknowledge that Trustee Mayo made it. She is here. Are there any changes for the agenda? All right. Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. That was the minutes, not the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, or do we approve it?
You want to start with the minutes first?
The minutes, 6.2.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the minutes for the previous meeting as printed.
I'll second that.
Trustee Nava Flores,
Yes.
and then 6.3, sorry, review and potential approval of agenda.
Madam President, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Trustee Nava Flores,
Yes.
and that passes 6-0. So I'll do the 7.0 report out on actions taken in closed session. So 7.1, negotiations, we heard information. 7.2, dismissal, discipline dismissal, release or reassignment, we heard information. 7.3, public employee performance evaluation, we discussed. 7.4, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Title IX claim at College Park, we heard information. 7.5, existing litigation, conference with legal counsel, Jane Doe versus MDUSD, we heard information. And 7.6, expulsion of student 7-23 from Mount Diablo Unified.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the expulsion of student 07-23. Prior to readmission, student 07-23 is required to meet the following conditions: participate in 20 hours of counseling and address anger management, social emotional learning, and trauma, show evidence of successful school experience with no suspendable infractions, earn 30 credits, maintain a 2.0 GPA or better, and have 90% attendance rate.
Did I miss how long the expulsion is?
You did, because I didn't say it until the end of
Let's
the
do the
school year.
semester.
So that would be June 23. Second.
That passes 4-1. 8.0, public comment. I don't have a thing to read, but the public may address the board. You all know this is my first day having the power, so forgive all my mistakes. The public may address the board regarding any item not on the agenda. And just as a reminder that we can't reply to you and you have 3 minutes. Kip Pinovich.
Good evening. My theme tonight is attract and retain. Last board meeting, as I listened to the first interim presentation, I heard the CBO mention or reference our outstanding benefits package. So I had to dig in and do some research. If I understand correctly, our benefit package covers 80% of Kaiser. Akalani's covers 100%. John Sweat covers 100%. San Ramon Valley covers 100%. Martinez covers 92, 93, or 97%, depending on your package. The County Office of Ed covers 94, 95, or 100%, depend on your package. Pittsburgh in negotiations presently has an offer of covering 93%, and that is all with vision and dental included. So if ours is outstanding, I don't know what words would cover theirs. If you want to attract and retain people, you need something to attract them and retain them. And as I drove home from school today on the sports talk radio, I heard somebody talking about something similar, and they basically summed it up with money wins when you are attracting and retaining people. These are the districts we're competing against. In addition to having better percentages coverage, they all have higher salary schedules, except for maybe John Sweat, but they are in negotiations right now. And in addition to that, if you were looking for ways to how to attract and retain, you could be competitive with these benefits. In addition to that, most of the surrounding districts are accepting all years of service for incoming employees, and they are going back and correcting, so to speak, placement on the salary schedule for people who have been harmed by this previous policy of only giving people certain numbers of credit on the salary schedule, even though they had more years of teaching experience. So I want to be sure that you understand what everybody around us is doing to make sure that they attract and retain people. And those are the people that we are competing against. As far as the salary schedule goes, San Ramon got 8.5%. Pittsburgh presently has a 7.25% offer. Antioch presently has a 9% offer, and Martinez got 9%. And those are all for this year. All of this is in the backdrop of Mount Diablo having a projected fund balance at the end of the year of $147 million, which is almost twice as high as the next district, and usually about 3 times higher than the surrounding districts. I hope you'll think about that when it comes time to treating your employees. Thank you.
Next is Jessica G.
Good evening. On behalf of the KVHS group, we wanted to thank you for allowing us to speak last month on the concerns regarding KVHS. It was a great experience to work together as a community-minded team to explore the needs of the station. I am commenting tonight to remind you that we have fulfilled our agreements of providing quotes for tower concerns and equipment removal. While we understand these things take time, we want to bring up again our request to build a committee. Perhaps that may look like an ad hoc committee, but whatever looks best in allowing us to collaborate with you and seeing that KVHS's future is nurtured. For many of us, KVHS has been there for us to share and listen to together on the way to and from school. Maybe some of us have memories of when the station was giving, awkward anti-drug PSAs, and they actually got my dad and I talking about things, even if it was just to laugh at how funny the commercial itself was. It was a good family building time together. As we know, the radio is there for when we're in our cars going to and from work. And admittedly, radio is easily taken for granted. While we hope the station is taken off the market, we also understand that we all want what is best for the station. That is why we believe that creating a committee is important. This would invite seats for the board or district members, any third parties that might be interested, and of course, a seat or two for the KVHS community group. It is my goal tonight to reiterate that this community asset has been largely ignored, yet it is a treasure. I am here to say it would be a gross loss of community growth, financial opportunity, and youth involvement, not to mention over a half a century of volunteers and community-driven support it has established to lose it. We have seen that this station has interest from Caleb and now possibly DVC. This should be a signal of the potential of this station and the need for the community to have a voice in what happens next. I hope that the Mount Diablo Unified School District will see the signs before we lose this endless opportunity. As a committee, we can provide informed bodies to ensure its growth and development, as well as students, their families, and the airwaves that surround them. We are asking to be a collaborative partner with both the district and any third parties interested in being part of the future of KVHS. We hope that you will email us at savekvhs@gmail.com in the future to work on next steps. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Frank Sterling.
Hello again. Hello again, everybody. Well, let me start with what I wrote. Good evening, everyone up there on the board tonight. It's good to see you all again. And as Jessica started off with thanking the board, I too want to thank you all for meeting with us last time and agreeing to work with us. And I'm here to help you understand why a committee is so important. For one, you all expressed yourselves that you have a lack of knowledge of what you could all do with the station and what can be done with it. Knowledge is what we all have. We're not all here tonight, but you've heard from us and know who we're made up of. And technology has changed now so much that it doesn't take a full studio to record good audio. And one thing that could be done easily is a radio club, and that can get kids on the radio simply and easily. The equipment is very inexpensive now. And I just want you all to imagine hearing the kids on the radio in the morning and pick up drive time, playing their favorite songs and doing shout outs to their friends or their parents and playing the music they love. Also running informational PSAs, and those are public service announcements. For example, I was going through the Human Resources Facebook page, and I noticed that you're hiring for a lot of positions. This would be an excellent opportunity to run these PSAs about your job openings, special school events, or even emergencies or school closures. And I could tell you from personal experience who's worked with high school kids and got them on the radio, that if you put the kids on the air, even just reading a simple announcement, that they're going to want to tune in, they're going to want to get their friends to tune in and their parents to tune in. This is something you can do also in baby steps. You know, you could start with a radio club. It doesn't take a lot, and you could see where it goes. And I would urge you to start utilizing the station just in small ways at this time to benefit the school district, because the possibilities are really endless. And we didn't get to the situation the radio station is now in 1 week or 1 year, because KVHS flourished for decades, and it's only been in this idle state for a few years. So again, these small examples are just the very tip of the iceberg, and that's why we feel a committee is very important. Also, as Jessica said, we want to help be sure that the community, the KVHS alumni, and the people that built it and kept it alive all these years, and the people that tune into the station are included in this process. And I feel, or we feel, a committee would make that possible, and at the same time would help educate the board in something that you're considering about letting slip away for like a one-time monetary injection into the district, when this can be an ongoing fundraising tool. And I lost my spot when I was looking at y'all. Okay, when this could be an ongoing, I'll repeat that, and this could be an ongoing fundraising tool. And again, the committee is most important to all of us. So please, as to your direction to work with us, set out some guidelines on how we can meet or communicate. And I would urge you all to allow the student representative here or whoever it may be in the future to be a part of that committee if they're willing at that time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is the end of public comment. So now we move on to 9.0, communications. District organizations at regular board meetings, a single spokesperson of each recognized district organization may make a brief presentation. Items are limited to those which are informational, and we have Carmen Torones here.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Clark, MDSD community. Happy New Year to all. And I honestly, I'm looking forward to a better year, but I don't think it's starting that way. I'm going to start with one, my number one priority is the heating system in the district. We're constantly hearing from sites that they're freezing, that they're bringing their own heaters, and that causes a lot of electrical problems. That has happened here in my department a couple of times. I have to run to Laura and ask for help to move the switch the breakers. But it's a continued issue. And right now I have College Park, Northgate, Concord High, and here Dent, specifically Windy on Room 1. We freeze to death every morning. And it isn't until about noon that we finally feel warm enough to remove our jackets or turn off the heaters. That was number one. The second is about attracting and retaining. I see an item on the agenda that is going to benefit administrators. And I'm not against it. I know we all deserve living wages in the district, but I also think it should be across the board. Everybody deserves to have living wages, specifically more the clerical personnel, people who run the site. Today, for instance, the first official day of the enrollment center, we serve almost 120 something families just today. So we expect something about that for tomorrow and so on. We deserve, those people have been there since Friday, working till 6, 7 o'clock at night. Same yesterday, making sure that we were ready to serve as the enrollment center. And this was just TK and K. Like I said, there's no disagreement about having competitive salaries, but it should be across the board. Some administrators really deserve the increase. Some, I disagree. I was told that a salary study was conducted with neighbor districts. I would like to see that study. I really would love to see that study, that spreadsheet that was conducted. And I also noticed that the Teamster had some kind of readjustment with some positions to bring them up to more decent wages. CSEA got almost 18% salary increase. We got 5.5. We, the people that run the district, pretty much. I am not diminishing administrators' jobs or anything, but we make it happen. And here we are with 5.5%. And just a little bit. I mean, I used to buy my box of coffee for $29.99. Now it's $39.99. Okay, so that's a lot of money for me, but I'm not going to stop drinking coffee. Okay. Again, I ask that if you really want to retain and attract people, to start by us. Right now, you have one middle school, Oak Grove Middle School, without office manager, without attendance secretary, and without the other secretary. The attendance secretary quit. The other secretary gave her 2 weeks notice, and I think her last day is next week. The office manager transferred to a different position. It was a promotion, but she was held back because they didn't want to leave the school without an office manager, which was unfair because she was missing money and the district refused to pay her, even though they gave her an email saying, hey, your starting date is November 21st. And then they called her that day and told her, nope, you have to stay. You want to retain classified too. It's not just management that you need to retain. Think about us. I asked the board to please encourage the human resources, I'm sorry. I just want to go home. It's been a long day. I asked to please that the board recommends HR to talk to CST, get back to the table and do something about our salaries as well. We deserve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 10.0 recognitions and resolutions. 10.1 review and potential approval of board resolution 2223-35 for personnel with variable waivers.
Yeah, Mr. Sheehy is going to take this item.
Yeah, so this is a typical item that we bring forward to the board when an employee needs more time to complete their requirements for their credential. And this time we have one employee that needs extra time.
Madam President, I move to approve resolution 2223 for personnel with variable term waivers.
I second that.
Trustee, Nava Flores,
Yes.
that passes 5-0. 10.2 review and potential approval of resolution 2223-36 in recognition of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yep, I'll take this item, and I know that clearly Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday was celebrated on Monday. We haven't had a meeting since December, so I will go ahead and for the record, read this resolution. In recognition of January 16th, 2023 as Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Whereas in 1964, Dr. King received the Nobel Peace Prize in Oslo, Norway for his dynamic leadership of the civil rights movement and steadfast commitment to achieving racial justice through nonviolent action. He pledged the prize money to the movement's continued development. At the age of 35, Dr. King became the youngest man and only the second African-American to receive this prestigious award. Whereas we proudly follow Dr. King's legacy by becoming drum majors for peace and justice for all people, exhibiting cultural competency, reflexivity, and humility, and celebrating our diversity with numerous events within the Mount Diablo Unified School District community throughout the year. Now, therefore, the governing board of the Mount Diablo Unified School District hereby calls upon everyone to observe this day by actively participating in civic, community, and service projects in honor of Dr. King's 94th birthday, and to commemorate the March on Washington for jobs and freedom by living our shared MDUSD values, striving for righteousness and bringing goodness to others. With that, I leave this resolution in the hands of the board.
Any comments? I have one. Thank you, Dr. Clark. Especially for the end where you said, you mentioned the various events, activities throughout our school district. So you all know I have a daughter who's a teenager, and I've been really good at not, like, she hops in the car after school and I don't force her to talk to me because I know eventually as the day goes on, she'll talk to me. She does. Then usually when I'm ready for bed, she'll tell me everything that happened that day. But on days when something does or doesn't happen, she hops in the car and tells me immediately. And yesterday, as it's been through our whole time in MDUSD, it was, wow, they didn't even mention Martin Luther King. And I said, well, I guess it was the day after, but not even on Friday. She said no. I was really pleased to see driving up here today next door that it was on the sign and like MLK Day. So I was like, oh, yay. So I really hope that we're doing a lot of really good and intentional things around anti-racism and social justice in our district. And I hope that as time goes on, we do in our schools very purposefully and intentionally acknowledge Martin Luther King Day, that we acknowledge his fight for economic justice and peace and against racism, because these are all the things we want our students to know about and learn about, and how we want them to grow into really good adults. So I hope that next year and all the years after that, we really do see more activities on our school campuses. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'll move that the board approve resolution 22/23-36 in recognition of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Second.
Trustee Nava Flores,
Yes.
that passes 5-0. Oh, with our student affirmation. Next 10.3, review and a potential adoption of resolution 2223-37 in recognition of January as National Slavery and Human Trafficking Month.
Great. Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to present resolution 22/23-37. Whereas in 2011, President Barack Obama issued a presidential proclamation designating each January to be National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Whereas Mount Diablo Unified School District is working to raise awareness so individuals will become more informed, identify the signs of human trafficking, create systems and strengthen partnerships between schools and law enforcement to address human trafficking and raise awareness of this serious issue in Contra Costa County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District does hereby proclaim January 2023 as National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month and urges all residents to actively participate in efforts to both raise awareness of and to end all forms of human trafficking in our communities and encourage schools and law enforcement to continue partnerships that support youth impacted by human trafficking and seek to raise awareness of the presence and impact of human trafficking on Contra Costa County's youth. Madam President, this resolution is now in the hands of the board.
Madam President, I move to approve resolution 2223-37 in recognition of National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yes, I'd just like to add that in the resolution, there is a link to the resources, and the link that it goes to is ContraCostaAlliance.org. Our county's done some really fantastic work in this area, making sure that there are resources we can all tap into. And just for all of our school sites to know that there are free resources that they can access from this site, including signage and little cards and things that you can have on hand. We do have a direct human trafficking phone line that goes directly to our district attorney's office that works on that particular issue. So you can get all of those resources at that site. So I hope that we are tapping into all of those free resources for this important issue.
Trustee Nava Flores,
Yes.
and that passes unanimously. 10.4. Review and potential approval of resolution 2223-38 in recognition of February as Black and African American History Month.
Great, so we can get this done before February, so that's good. We're ahead of schedule here. So whereas the deep-rooted and intrinsic value of Black and African American history presents our educational institution with an opportunity for recognition, teaching, and celebration. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District Governing Board proclaims the month of February as Black and African American History Month and encourages all schools to commemorate this occasion accordingly with appropriate instructional materials, discussion, presentations, and projects. Be it further resolved that the executed resolution be distributed to all schools within the Mount Diablo Unified School District boundaries. Madam President, this resolution is now in the hands of the board.
Thank you.
I do have something to say. Reiterating what Dr. Clark said, in the teachings of it, let's encourage the board and all educators of Mount Diablo Unified School District to teach in appropriate manners, but also to teach with to teach during this month with social justice, with recognition and with respect, and with dignity and with honor of what we are learning. And throughout this entire time to, again, like I mentioned, to teach through a lens of social justice and to create an open space for students to have discussions and to create these critical thinking skills, but also analyzing where we are today and the successes of our African-American youth and our African-American ancestors. And again, just going back to ensuring that when we are being taught, that students can speak up and participate in discussions, but are also providing the space for other students to learn and to speak up about any issues that they are facing. And again, just ensuring that we are teaching and creating a safe and welcoming space for all of our students. And again, we are teaching with the sense of social justice and with respect. Thank you. Madam President, I move to approve item 10.4, review and potential approval of resolutions 22/23-38 in recognition of February as Black and African American History Month.
Second?
Trustee Nova Flores.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. 11.0. I'll just make one comment on it as you can come on up, Mr. Sheehy. Is that the kickoff, like this resolution kicks off our year of recognizing all the things that a lot of people in our country, a small number of people, but very loud people in our country don't want us to teach children. And so it's like the beginning of the pride that I have in our district. So thank you for that. Mr. Sheehy.
Yeah, we have,
number
Mr. Sheehy is going to take items 10.1, 10.2,
11.
11, 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, and 11.4.
Thank
So
you.
with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Sheehy.
Excellent. The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Robert Humphrey as the Administrator, Expanded Learning Programs. Robert has worked for MDUSD for 27 years, 7 years as a middle school teacher at Glenbrook Middle School, 2 years as a VP at Mount Diablo High School, 3 years as principal at El Monte Elementary School, 8 years as principal at El Dorado Middle School, and is currently serving in his 7th year as principal at Bel Air Elementary School. Robert holds a bachelor's degree in history. In his free time, Robert enjoys home improvement projects and working in his backyard. And with that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Madam Chair, I think I've worked with Mr. Humphrey almost all those 27 years. So it's my pleasure to make a motion to approve him for the new role of Expanded Learning Administrator for Mount Diablo Unified School District. And I trust I'll still see a lot of you in Bay Point.
Second.
Student trustee doesn't vote on this, right? I don't think so, right? Welcome.
Madam President Nzewi, Vice President McFerrin, members of the board, Dr. Clark, members of cabinet. I am giddy. I'm so excited and honored to be nominated and put forward for this position. I want to thank everyone that has supported me. I definitely want to thank my family, who has always provided love and support and encouragement. So thank you for this opportunity.
Congratulations.
Vice Principal at Concord High School. The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Ryan Hughes as the Vice Principal at Concord High School. Ryan has spent the past 17 years as a teacher, administrator, and community advocate for students and families in the Bay Area. He started his teaching career with Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District, where he taught middle school English, history, and physical education before starting his administrative career in East Palo Alto before moving to his current position in Oakland at Bay Area Technology School. Ryan holds a bachelor's degree with an emphasis in physical education and a master's degree in education. And with that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Madam President, I'll move that we approve the appointment of Ryan Hughes as Vice President at Concord High School.
I'll second that.
Congratulations.
Madam Board President, Dr. Clark, I'm honored to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to work with Mount Diablo Unified School District as well as the Concord community. And I'm just very excited and very blessed, and I can't wait to get started very soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Nancy Chen as the Executive Director of Fiscal Services. Nancy has been working in accounting for more than 19 years, and her expertise covers both private sector and governmental accounting. Nancy currently serves as the Chief Accountant in the Fiscal Services Department. Nancy holds a bachelor's degree in accounting. Nancy is a mother of 2 children, and in her leisure time, she enjoys yoga, hiking, baking, and traveling. She is a longtime Rotarian and the current treasurer of API Coalition. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the appointment of Nancy Chen as the Executive Director of Fiscal Services.
Second.
Congratulations.
Good evening, trustees and superintendent. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Chen. I have been working on as an accountant for more than 19 years. So my experience covers both private sector and governmental accounting. So I'm so happy to bring my experience to my new position as Executive Director of Fiscal Services. I am eager to work closely with all of you, and thank you in advance for your full support of my work. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board review and potential approval the appointment of Aaron Vallejo as the Education Technology Coordinator in the Technology and Information Services Department. Aaron is an ed tech teacher leader who has worked in Dublin Unified School District for the past 12 years. Aaron has played many roles in her career, including Education Technology Coordinator, Freshman Mentor Program Advisor, Speech and Debate Teacher, Club Advisor to such clubs as TEDx Dublin High School and Room to Read. She is currently a board member for East Bay Q. Aaron holds a bachelor's degree in writing and a master's degree in teaching. Aaron believes strongly in fostering advocacy and lifelong learning in the classroom. When she is not presenting or teaching, Aaron is busy traveling, cooking, and gardening. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Madam President, I move to approve Aaron Vallejo as Educational Technology Coordinator.
I'll second that.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Clark, members of the board. I'm very excited to be joining Mount Diablo Unified School District as this next step in my career I look forward to collaborating. I look forward to learning. I want to thank my family who I brought with me this evening for all of their support. And I thank you for this opportunity.
Congratulations. All right, let's get to the meat of it. 12.0. Charter schools audit reports, 12.1.
All the new appointees can feel free to leave now and go rest up if they would like.
Or get to know us, stay a while. The charter school audit? Is there a presentation or is it
Ms.
just?
Sachs, is that charter school audit?
There is no presentation.
Okay.
We've been receiving these audits, and for the sake of transparency, as they've been coming forward, I realized I don't think the board had ever seen them. So as we get these types of documents from our charter schools that we've actually chartered, I just want to make sure that they're available to the board and available to the public. So happy to answer any
you.
questions you might have.
I just want to say thank you for bringing this forward for us, but also for the public to be able to see, within the reports, you can see the financials, their ADA, and a lot of important information is there. So I appreciate that.
Agree. Thank you.
Thank you. 12.2, staff report on California Accountability Dashboard 2022.
Yeah, and Dr. Chenaloy is going to do this presentation, but again, I just want to share before he jumps into the data. When this information came out in December, we sent it out in the Friday letter to make sure that all parents had access to that. But we understand that navigating the CDE website sometimes can be confusing. So some of the presentation you're going to hear tonight is really helping that process and kind of making it accessible to everyone. But again, if you want more information, you can visit the CDE website. This is really where we build our systems of support and our expectations around the dashboard and around the state dashboard. So we're real excited to continue to engage in this work. And I would have to say, 75% of our actions district-wide are really directly related to the actions that are highlighted here. So again, I want to thank Dr. Chenaway and his team for putting this together and bringing this information forward. But we all have a hand in this data and the great parts of it and also the challenges in it as well. So without any further ado, the floor is yours, sir.
All right, thanks, Dr. Clark. Good evening, board, Dr. Clark, MDOC community. So I'm here to present the Mount Diablo Unified Accountability Report. And in the last 2 years, the California accountability requirements have been waived or adjusted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So prior to that, the CDE had established a new accountability system, which is the California School Dashboard. Very excited about it. It was something that would be able to measure our performance within that year, but also our potential improvement from the previous year. So it was a great way to summarize how our district, how our schools are doing in these specific state indicators. And those specific state indicators are academic performance, chronic absenteeism, college and career readiness, English learner progress, graduation rate, and suspension rate. And as Dr. Clark had mentioned, what we have done within our district, and this is really establishing it, is having these indicators kind of driving not only our accountability from the state, but our internal accountability. And this is something that we are tracking this data and establishing kind of these systems and structures for tracking this data within a year so that we're not waiting, say at the very end of the year, just to be surprised exactly what our performance is and how we've done, say, from the next year. So the accountability is primarily out of two different systems. We get kind of different data from that. So as I mentioned, the California School Dashboard, that is our primary system that we would be able to see kind of our multiple measures, and to kind of support that and be able to pull up different reports that would complement what we see in the dashboard is through DataQuest. Now, most of this presentation will be on the California School Dashboard, and I'll just mention a little bit about DataQuest and in further board reports that will include some of the data that is very informative from DataQuest. So the California School Dashboard, there are performance levels that are determined using 2 years of data. So the current year, which is our status, and then the difference from the prior year to show growth or decline, which is the change. So this is what I was mentioning before, that we would be able to see our performance within this past year, but also see how we've done compared to the previous year. Now, since the last 2 years, we haven't had our accountability system because all our measures have been, the data has been very inconsistent. It's been not even present. So that has really halted this. Now, starting this year, they are starting to report on our dashboard. However, because we don't have any previous year's data, the only data that's present in the dashboard is our status. So just our current year. And when I say current year, it was just this past current year's data from the past year. So right now, our 2022 dashboard will only report on status levels, and that's because our 2021 performance on measures were unavailable. And before we would be able to, let's see, we would get a measurement, doesn't kind of show up, but you see that gauge right there up right next to the California School Dashboard. Normally, we would be able to see a color-coded kind of gauge, and that would determine our performance based off of our status and change. But because we only are receiving a status performance level just for this year, you're going to see it as kind of cell phone bars. That's how they say it. So it's very low, as you can see, with 1 low, 2 medium, 3, 4 high, and 5 bars is very high. So you're getting very good reception. So one of our indicators, a primary one, is our academic indicators. It's reported on English language arts and math. And the way they calculate the performance is the distance from standard. So the distance from standard is determined with students, how far they are from meeting the standard level, and that's the standard cutoff score, and then they kind of average all of them out. So this kind of helps out with a lot of variance and being able to see exactly how our students are performing. Say if we had a lot of students performing close to on a above standard, but on the very tail end of it, and if we had students that were below standard and were very far from it, our kind of scores are vary quite a bit. So this kind of helps with seeing, reducing some of that variance and being able to see how close our students are performing on standard level. Also, something that is included in this is based off of the Every Student Succeeds Act, is that all states must test at least 95% of their students. So we make sure that all our sites are reaching that threshold and beyond, because we want to be able to test all our students, be able to get this data and be able to track it longitudinally, and also be able to use it within the next year in our instructional practices. So as I was explaining, this just kind of goes into it of how the distance from standard is calculated. So as you can see that they give an example of where that level 3 cutoff is, a student score, and then they average all of those out. So reporting on our ELA academic indicator from this past school year, it is it's a very good summary because we can see all our student groups and exactly which level they are performing at. And we can also see all our students. So at a low level, and we were 20.6 points below standard. And you can see the number of students that were included in it. And then you can see the student groups and exactly which level they're falling into. And for the ones that say no performance level, there were not enough students for them to report on. And that is to protect the identity of our students. So this is our ELA performance according to the California School Dashboard. And this is our math performance in our California School Dashboard. So you can see that it was 52.6 points below standard. So it was a low performance, and you can see the different student groups that had fallen into each performance level. So it gives a very nice summary. It's very quick and easy for us to be able to see this kind of tracking. So moving into another indicator is our chronic absenteeism. And the California School Dashboard reports on the percentage of students who were absent for 10% or more of the instructional days they were enrolled to attend. So in this dashboard, it's only reporting on kindergarten through 8th grade. And for most indicators, we want a higher level for the performance, but in this case, we would want a kind of a lower level for our chronic absenteeism. How it's calculated, we have the number of students that are chronically absent within that current year, and then the number of students meeting the absenteeism enrollment requirement, and that's being enrolled at least 31 instructional days, and that would calculate our chronic absenteeism rate. As you notice, this is our performance in our chronic absenteeism. So you notice that many of our groups are in the very high, and you can kind of assume kind of what happened this past year, especially with our COVID protocols, all our sickness protocols. We had a very high absenteeism rate, and the absenteeism is included of unexcused and excused. So even if students were sick and they had excuses, they're still coming up in this report. So, and this is very common across the board, that chronic absenteeism from that past year was very high.
Can I just ask a question on that? Yeah,
please.
When I was first looking at this, I was thinking, wow, a quarter of the students chronically absent, that sounds astronomical. And so, yeah, my question was, I think you just answered it, that it's related to the COVID absences and the length of time people needed to be out before they tested negative to come back and that sort of thing. And then when I went to the website itself to compare to the state, that was the other piece I was curious about. How do we compare to the state? The state was 30% chronically absent. So actually, does that mean compared to the state, we are doing better in terms of our chronic absences?
Yes, and then also being able to compare it to our state, that is something that is available in DataQuest, and that's something with those additional reports that really help with getting a good idea of how we're doing in each of these indicators. So through this dashboard, it kind of gives us one angle of it. And then, for example, what you are saying now, when we want to look at it and compare it to our state, we were able to pull up these kind of reports, say in DataQuest, we have that power, and it would kind of give us that kind of a different angle and be able to examine it on kind of a different perspective too. So it gives us that additional information.
And I think even just on the dashboard, like where the purple highlight is on all students, right next to it says state. So that's all I
Sure.
did. I didn't go to a more complex
Yep.
data quest for that data
Right.
point, just for the public to know. Thanks.
Moving on, we have our college and career readiness. Now, this indicator was not reported for this year, but the CCI, the College and Career Readiness Indicator, consists of the following. So as you can see, at advanced placement, AP exams, A through G completion, performance on the SBAC, and college credit courses, the IB exams, and state seal of biliteracy, and also with our career readiness is the career technical education pathway completion, apprenticeships, state and federal job programs, work-based learning experiences, leadership, and military science. Now, with the calculation of the college and career readiness, it is kind of a different criteria for each of those, and then it would indicate whether students are college and career ready. Now, something that is very useful is alluding to our data quest, is that we are able to see kind of our performance within one of these measures, because this indicator measure sums everything up and it calculates it so that we can just determine if our students are college and career ready. So moving forward, we'll be able to see our performance level in this indicator, but for this current year, we do not have a report.
And I just want to chime in. Can you go back to that slide real
Yeah,
quick?
of course, Dr. Clark.
You see career technical education pathway completion. So I know that we've had conversations about academies versus CTE completions, and I know that the work of academies does fall into some of those categories. So I'm not discounting that. However, CTE completion is one of those clear indicators that they're using to measure us. And as we have in most of our not most of our schools, at least in our schools that are very much, hands-on learning focused, Unexio Valley, some of Concord High, all of Mount Diablo High, the CTE piece really isn't dominant in those schools. There's other programs that are dominant. So as we transition, we're really looking to offer more of those CTE pathways. And I know I've spoken about that many times before, and this is one of the reasons where that comes from.
Thanks, Dr. Clark. No, please, you can interrupt anytime you want. So
I have a question about that, though. Would the new, like we're working on getting kids certified in drone piloting before that, would that fall under that kind of because they'd actually be certified in it when they graduate? So something like that would count toward that. Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
So another indicator is our English learner progress. Previously, so students would take an LPAC summative exam at the end of each year, and based off of that summative English language proficiency assessment, they would get kind of an LPAC score. So you can see at the top, it says 1, 2, 3, 4. So they would get a performance level. And prior to this year, progress would be shown if they were able to increase from one performance level to another or maintain a high performance level. Now, going into that, they as in the state CDE had determined that jumping up a whole entire performance level was not suitable to a good kind of tracking our improvement of our English language learner progress. So what they did was they divided it up with the 2 and 3 levels to a 2 low, a 2 high, a 3 low, and a 3 high. So these became the ELPI levels, and that's the English learner progress indicator levels. So to show progress, it would be increasing from one of those ELPI levels. So if a student went from a 2L to a 2H, they would be showing that progress. So it was easing it up and a better way to kind of track our English learner progress in that. So that was one of the changes in the English learner progress from previous dashboards and moving into this one. So the calculation of doing that is the number of EL students who advanced at least one ELPI level from 2021 to 2022, plus the number of EL students who maintained at a level 4. And it's divided by the number of EL students, and that will get us our ELPI rate. And this is our English learner progress indicator for our district. So we're at a medium performance level, 51.9%, making progress towards English language proficiency. And you can see the bar graph over there that it's divided up into the number of students who progressed at least one ELPI level, who maintained their ELPI level at a 4 or a 1 or a 2L, 2H, 3L, 3H, and then also the number of students that decreased at least one ELPI level. So moving on to another indicator is our graduation rate. Now, this was the dashboard reports the percentage of high school students who graduated with a regular high school diploma in either 4 or 5 years. And this graduation rate indicator includes the students who graduated in the cohort of 2022, as well as the students from the prior cohort of class of 2021. So those are the 5th years. And now when they're doing the graduation rate indicator, it's going to include both of those. And it might, I have read that it might move even beyond that, because what they're really thinking about is we just want to get our students graduated. And if it takes 4 years, 5 years, so they're considering those with students that are going into continuation or alternative schools. So in this indicator, the students who earn a special education certificate of completion, a California high school equivalency certificate, or an adult education diploma are included as non-graduates. So they're included in the cohort, but they're not included as graduates. So with that calculation, that kind of went into it where we got students that are getting their high school diploma in 4 years plus the 5 years, and then the total number of students in that class of 2000 of the one cohort and the other cohort, and that is our graduation rate. So for our district, we were at a medium performance level, 88.7% graduated. And you can see the breakdown of our student groups in the different performance levels that they fell into. So one more indicator is our suspension rate. And this reports the percentage of students who have an aggregate suspension of at least 1 full day. So students that have at least 1 suspension are counted within this rate. Students with multiple suspensions are only counted once within this rate. And then just like the chronic absenteeism, it's kind of a reversed performance level that we want kind of lower levels than higher levels. So the calculation for the suspension rate is the number of students suspended at least 1 full day divided by the cumulative enrollment. And the cumulative enrollment is if a student has been in our district at least 1 day. So the number in the cumulative enrollment is always a lot higher than our current enrollment at any point in time. And that would determine our suspension rate. So for our suspension rate in our school district, we're at a medium performance level, about 3.2% students suspended at least were suspended at least 1 day. And you can see the breakdown in the student groups in each of the performance levels. So this is our kind of our accountability within the California School Dashboard. So moving forward, we'll be able to see our kind of performance within a year and compared to the previous year within these indicators. And this is something that is kind of driving our internal accountability as well, that we are focusing in on these specific indicators and being able to track the data throughout the year so that we're able to make the according practices, decisions, and actions within that year. And this is something that we're building these kind of systems in that so that we can see this type of data as it's happening. And that's something that we're really focusing in on in our internal accountability. And then also, as I mentioned with DataQuest, is that we're able to get additional information that really complements the dashboard and say our internal accountability system, and being able to see our kind of our performance from from a different perspective, and then being able to kind of analyze that data and give us additional information so that it can be more informed decisions as we move on. So just for example, the Data Quest has a litany of reports such as completion data, absenteeism, assessment, discipline, graduation dropout. It kind of goes on. So we kind of break it down in different ways. And this is something that even actually we're going to have a kind of a report coming up is I know there was a question about looking at our suspension rates in risk ratios and seeing it compare comparatively between student groups. And that is very helpful that we can see that type of data. And this allows us to do that, is say some of those reports in DataQuest. So that's something that will be forthcoming and that can be included in our kind of reports to the board. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, your time and attention, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But that is our report on our MDUSD accountability from this past year.
I had a question in regards to the graduation rate. If we could go back to that slide
Of course,
so you can reference it.
this
So,
one or the calculation or kind of a
The
brief
one with the
summary.
data, the summary.
Yep.
Yeah, so here we tend to see that specific student groups are in the lower region or medium region of graduation. And so my concern or my question is there any programs or resources that the district has implemented to address this disparity amongst our students?
So in just this and what I mentioned before is being able to track our data as it's happening. And this is something that say I can speak on specifically from my office is establishing and getting that type of data and being able to track the students' graduation status. So say we can see how many credits they're falling behind. And this is something that I've been working on so that now we'll be able to kind of see that very quickly. And then this is something that when we work with our high schools is then we can identify those students that are not only behind in certain credits, but say what particular subject, or we can see certain kind of themes. If there are students that are 10 credits behind, it's mostly in this particular subject. So this is something that, say, my office has been working on, and we're going and being able to kind of get that data. And now we'll try to kind of build that capacity in utilizing that.
If I could just hop in, just, Doc.
I will let Dr. Clark.
Yeah, no, what, in the data office, he runs the reports for everyone and makes them very accessible. But your question would be geared towards all of the counselors at the high schools, the vice principals, the teacher leaders, every single teacher, college and career counselors. Those are the programs and the people who we put who really impact on the graduation rates. The great work that he does in his office is they don't have to go digging for all of this information. He can provide them with accessible reports. Jen Sachs, Wendy Aguili, Samantha Allen, they're the ones who specifically work on the programs for the secondary schools. He just runs the data.
Thank you for this informational data. Thank you.
I don't just run the data.
I know,
Is that all I
but
do,
you-
Dr. Clark?
He analyzes it, he translates it.
I'm just messing with you,
I
Dr.
know,
Clark.
you know, you know.
I just want to say thank you for the presentation and for, I think all of this, like you said, is if you can get the information easily accessible earlier in the school year, then people can really act on that data at a school level, and then we can see it at the district level as well, where our focus needs to be. So I appreciate this data-driven approach. Thanks.
I just want to echo Trustee Count. I just found this presentation really accessible, and sometimes, I'm an English teacher, so sometimes looking at data, like I get a little cross-eyed, and this is very, very digestible. And I can see our sites really appreciating the work that's put into breaking it down in the way that you have for us. So thank you.
Can I just reiterate one thing that you said and you said is that this is like our new baseline. Like it's good news and bad news, depending on where you're sitting and who you are and which child it is. But it's our new baseline and we only go up from here. So I appreciate, I reiterate, I appreciate it. It's very consumable. I don't like CDE moving to this cell phone thing. I like the dial better, but I assume we get the dial back next year because it's
Yeah,
compared to
it's
something
just
else.
this current year where
Yeah.
they kind of switched, where they had to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
and Distinguish it that it's different from our past years and kind of
Right.
moving forward.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to, I lost my spot too, sorry. Review 12.3, review and acceptance of Mount Diablo Unified School District Independent Audit Report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
Thank you. I would like
While
to.
this does this,
Oops, sorry. I would like to introduce Charles Rabley. He's from Crow. He's been working with us since I've been here in Mount Diablo Unified. So a little over 3 years. I think he's probably been on our team a little more than that, a little longer than that. But he's going to take items 12.3, 12.4, 12.5. You and the public have everything in the packet, but he's also here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak with you about the results of the audit. I'll go through a few brief required communications and a couple of pages in the audit report that I want to draw your attention to, and then address maybe any questions that you'd like to ask, and I'll hopefully be able to answer those for you this evening. Real quickly, some of the just general scope and responsibilities as it relates to the audit process. The audit includes the financial statements. The financial statements are the responsibility of management of the district and of you all as those charged with governance of the district. Our responsibility as your auditor is to opine as to whether the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. In addition to that, because you have federal dollars that you've expended, we are required to have a federal compliance audit, and they call it a uniform guidance audit. So our objective also includes opining as to whether the district was compliant with all the requirements of the uniform guidance, and management similarly retains that responsibility for the compliance itself. And then in addition, because you're in the state of California and you're a district, you have a responsibility for a state compliance audit. And so again, management retaining that responsibility for compliance itself, and ourselves as the auditor with the responsibility of opining as to whether or not the district was compliant. We also are required to communicate if we had any difficulties in performing the audit, disagreements with management about how to account for something. If we did have those sorts of circumstances arise, we'd be communicating with you on those earlier in the audit process. And so I'm glad to say there's nothing to communicate in there, just formally stating that in this meeting. And as far as new accounting standards, we're required to communicate if the district or the district's management team adopted new accounting standards or changes to the accounting methodology. I will say there was one new accounting standard that had an impact to many districts and governments throughout the country this year related to lease accounting standards. And so we worked with management to assess whether that had an impact to the financial statements. And this year with that implementation, there was no result from that implementation. So no changes to the financial statements as a result of accounting for leases under this new methodology. Then just at a very high level, the lease accounting changed this year to say, okay, well, if you had a lease agreement to lease copiers, vehicles, facilities of any significant amount, you're supposed to recognize that liability in the government-wide financial statements of the district, rather than just having it out there as an unreported obligation for multiple years. So we worked through with management to assess whether that was significant, and it was not significant this year. So The only other thing I would say on communications, actually, I did cover everything. So I'll look at the financial statements really briefly. One page, if you're looking at the electronic document before you, it's page 90. If you have a physical copy of the report, it's page 83 on the bottom right-hand corner. And I'll just describe what's on the page and talk a little bit about from that. So there's, again, those three scopes that I mentioned, the financial statements, federal compliance, and state compliance. So from the financial statements perspective, that page in the audit report is intended to summarize the result, right? So we've given what's called an unmodified opinion over the financial statements. And so that's that clean opinion or the highest level of assurance you're looking to achieve out of an audit. And you'll see no check boxes there on that page as it follows that section, and that's a good thing. If we had any findings that were material issues that we needed to elevate to you all and to the public, they would be marked as yes, and we'd talk about those findings. For the next section, federal awards, again, no checkbox checks. There we go. And then under the section at the bottom of the federal awards section, it says identification of major programs. We follow what the federal government tells us to as it relates to identifying what federal programs require an audit in a given year. And this year, we were required to audit Title I, Education Stabilization Funds, which is your ESSER or GEAR funding, and then the Child Nutrition Cluster. So those were three what we call major programs that needed to be audited this year for federal compliance. So no issues to report there. And I'll jump to the last section, which is state awards. State awards is your state compliance section or audit. That, as you can see, is identified as a qualified opinion. So we had a few findings that I'll talk about what those really meant. On the, I guess if you want to go to 2 more pages down to page 86 or 3 pages. Yeah. This first finding relates to attendance. In the last year in 2020 and 2021, the accounting for attendance was quite different than it was in years past. And so now in 2022 fiscal year, we return to more of a normal scenario of attendance accounting. And what we've seen in many districts is a challenge. You've got personnel that have turned over at the site level, and then not having, even if the people are the same, they haven't done that for a while in the tracking of accounting. So we had, I'm happy to say, only one error in accounting for the attendance at all of our sample of sites that we looked at. So that was a effect of 0.01 ADA. And you might say, gosh, why are we reporting it if it's 0.01 ADA? And that's because the state in their audit guide is not really prescribing a materiality threshold as it relates to these types of findings. So it doesn't matter if it's a little tiny thing or a big one, I have to report it in the audit report. So there's no fiscal impact because it's less than 1/2 of an ADA, but it's just sort of a elevating to your attention this one item that we identified. The next finding on the next following page relates to after-school education and safety. Again, this is another program where we're returning back to a sort of a normal scenario after not having done things that way for a while. So we had some accounting and clerical input errors in the items that we tested, at least at one school site. So one school site had one accounting issue for the attendance on ACES program. Again, no fiscal impact from that because of the way that the funding worked for this program and the way that the minimal nature of that finding. But we have to include it in the audit report because it is something we identified. And the last finding on the next page is related to independent study. Again, sort of a similar trend you see where things are different this year, and we're sort of trying to get caught up to new or returning to old processes that haven't been implemented for a while. So we had one or a sample of students that were on the independent study program that had not all of the criteria that the state requires us to include in the independent study contracts, samples of schoolwork, etc. So our sample of students had some that were not including all of those myriad elements that needed to be included. And so we had to report that as a finding in the audit report. And so the total ADA impact from that finding was 1.43, not as significant from a dollar perspective relative to the district, but important to communicate. And we're working with management, to understand sort of process that they can implement to ensure that doesn't happen going forward for all these findings. So all in all, though, I think the nature of those findings is relatively immaterial to the financial statements of the district, as you can assume from the total ADA impacted listed on those. And I would say that, this year kind of returning back to that process of a normal audit was actually went okay overall. We were able to get everything we need and get the audit filed with the state controller's office, the county office of ed, and CDE by the December 15th deadline. So kind of returning to that original normal timeline. I went through a whole lot there, and so I'm happy to address any questions that you might have about the audit report.
I do have one technical question. Don't take offense. It has nothing to do with you, but I've worked for public agencies before. Aren't we required after so many years to change auditors? Is that still in effect, that every so many years?
No, there's no requirement to change your auditor. The state requires that we change your audit partner. So the person who's signing off on your audit internally within the firm is required to change every 6 years. And so we maintain compliance with that. We actually have changed the partner already early or in that process. So yes.
I did have a question on the printed page 12, but it's in the district's narrative, so you may not be able to answer it. I don't know.
I'll give it a shot, and if we need to bring Lisa back up, we can.
In the table A5, it talks about long-term debt. And the item I'm questioning is compensated absences. Is that money paid? Explain that term for me.
Sure. Compensated absences is basically accrued vacation. So the employees of the district who are eligible to take PTO, paid time off, there's a liability associated with that as it's building up over time if they don't take their time off.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking it was something else. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to say, this is great news. I know oftentimes the public hears various things and questions whether our financials are, being well managed. And I think this is another proof point that it is, in fact, that it was a clean audit, basically no financial matters reported or anything that affects the fiscal status. And that out of an ADA of 26,000, we had one student, misreported for 1 day. I think that's pretty good. I would say I'm not too concerned about that. And the independent study contracts, I know as a parent, and talking to other parents who were going through the crazy year that last year was, and the amount of independent study contracts that the understaffed schools were trying to track down the parents to sign those things. The fact that there was an issue with 14 of them over the course of that whole period of time also, I think, says a lot about the hard work that was put into those things. So thank you.
And I think it's important to point out that our long-term debt decreased to $177,000 by reading the report correctly.
177 million.
I meant million, yes. So thank you for everyone that has worked on this.
This is an action item.
Yeah, and I just want to thank your team. I know that, you guys request a lot of documents, and I know we did a lot of scrambling to get you all of those documents or whatnot, but I just want to thank your team for your patience working with us and being able to produce this and give us the feedback that we need to continue to improve our systems and structures when it comes to, all of our financial transactions. So thank you.
Thank you.
With that, Madam President, I move to accept the independent audit report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Trustee Nova Flores,
Yes.
Passes unanimously. You have the next one.
Yeah. I'll just hang out around.
Yeah.
So the next presentation or audit report that we have for you is for Measure C for your general obligation bonds. And so the education code requires that not only do we do the district audit, but we also have a requirement to do a separate financial statement and performance audit over any bonds that were approved through Prop 39. And so in this case, Measure C was required to have the financial statement and performance audit. And very quickly, the financial statement audit is a separate set of financials looking at Measure C as a standalone, and similarly for your next item, Measure J. And so it looks at the financial picture of that bond as a standalone entity. And the performance audit is different because instead of looking at, okay, well, do the financial statements have items that exist? Are they valued correctly relative to the support? Are they classified in the right buckets of type of income or expense or asset or liability? The performance audit looks at those expenditures only and says, were those used for the purpose of Measure C? And were they also compliant with Prop 39 allowable uses? So sort of looking at it under a different lens. In this case, for the 2022 fiscal year for Measure C, it had about 5.8 million in total expenditures, and we tested a sample of 48 expenditures in total, which was about 5.2 million of that 5.8. So a really large percentage of coverage in this particular year. And there were no non-compliant expenditures. So the items that we tested of the 5.2, the supporting documentation validated it was a proper use for Prop 39 funds and that those aligned with the Measure C purposes. So good result there. And of the financial statements for Measure C, you've got about 9.7 million left of funds, net of obligations for construction payable, et cetera, at June 30th. So not reflecting activity after that date. And so giving those were unmodified opinions for the financial statement audit and for the performance audit.
Motion.
Madam President, I move to accept the 2010 Measure C audit reports for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Trustee Nava Flores.
Yes.
That is unanimous. One more.
So the last item that we presented or we're presenting on is for Measure J. This year, we had a lot less activity in Measure J. So for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2022, we had about 420,000 of expenditures only. Of that 420,000, we tested about 113,000 of those expenditures, which was about 27%, I think, of the total value expended. Again, no issues to report. So those items that we tested were appropriate for Prop 39 and the bond measure. I will note that in 2022 fiscal year, there was a new issuance of Measure J, a new series. And so there was $75 million proceeds that were received. So you'll expect to see, in this fiscal year that we're in now, those funds start to be expended as those projects ramp up related to that 75 million that was brought in. So it just happened towards the end of the year. So the activity that we actually tested of expenditures was relatively small. But again, unmodified opinions for the financial statement audit and the performance audit.
I want to thank you for being able to provide these reports at the same time you're presenting the district's overall audit. Our bond oversight committees have been, what shall I say, strident about the fact that they wish that the reports were available at the same time. And so on their behalf, I want to say thank you for getting that work done and thanking staff for assuring that information was available at the same time.
Thank you.
And I'll move that we approve the Measure J audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
Second.
Trustee Nava Flores,
Yes.
and that is unanimous. Thank you so much.
So as we're finishing these three items, I want to say thank you to Mr. Rabley again. Also on his team is Jeff Jansen. He's not here this evening, but he works very closely with us. I want to say that it really truly is a partnership. There probably isn't a 2-week period that goes by where we're not reaching out to say, what about this? What about this? What do you think about this? What about this interpretation? Even in the hallway earlier tonight, I hit him up with another one. What about this? What do you think? So I just want you to know that we have a really open relationship to be able to communicate and ask questions, which we always think is the prudent way to do it. But it's not just his team. I want to commend some of our staff. So we've got Isaac Williams, who's here. He's our internal auditor, who's really doing the checking along the way and making sure that everything is done as it should be. And then because 2 of those items were Measure C and Measure J, I want to commend Melanie Coslow, our director of maintenance and operations, and her team as well, because it means that they're really doing a very diligent job to make sure that the spending is in accordance with the way that it's supposed to be spent, and that all of the record keeping is present. So I wanted to make sure that all those staff members were recognized. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Board member reports 13.1. I'll start with Trustee Mason, since it's been a year since you've been able to go first.
Well, mine will be brief. Prior to our taking our holiday break, I attended the DLAC meeting, which I always enjoy. I went to the coffee with the principal at Holbrook. I wanted to thank Dr. Francis for inviting us to the Kwanzaa celebration. I learned a lot there. Ms. Sachs was there as well. It was a very fun occasion out at Riverview Middle School. This week I went to the Wellness Committee. Apologize for flaking out on last month's meeting or our last meeting, forgot, but it was a very good meeting. I'm very pleased with the way things are going in that department. I wanted to do a thanks tonight, special thanks to maintenance and operation. I know they had to be going crazy over the last few weeks with all the rain. At least in Bay Point, we're pretty much unscathed. Also, there was sadly a very attractive graffiti on the front of Rio Vista School, but they got out there and covered it in record time. I said, I wish we could find out the kids that did it, because it was really pretty, just not appropriate. We could have them paint Rio Vista School up there. And then lastly, I wanted to thank again Rio Vista for, I had somebody reach out to me from the community, a parent that was panicked and she needed childcare before and after school. I asked her to call the Rio Vista office and check with them. A few hours later, I got an email back saying, thank you so much, that her kid had been enrolled before school, after school program, and she was very happy. So it's nice to know our systems and our people are working for our community. And that's my report.
Thank you so much. Trustee McFerrin.
Hello, everyone. I will also be brief this evening. Over the last few weeks, I've been able to go to some of my regular meetings. I went to the Budget Advisory Committee meeting on December 15th. I went to the CAC last Tuesday and went to the Wellness Committee meeting last Thursday. And I'm excited to see some of the things that we've been talking about there, including local produce like oranges and some Rumiano cheese that we've been hearing about, on the consent agenda. Also, it was really exciting to hear about a site visit made to Mount Diablo High School, and our being able to hear directly from students about what they have to say about what they'd like to see in the cafeteria. That is always a topic students have a lot to say about at all of the schools where I've worked. So it's just interesting to hear kind of that my ears always perk up to hear what students have to say about something like their the food they have access to. Last, I was able to tune in for just a couple minutes to a city council meeting where they were discussing um, uh, flavored tobacco. And I just want to appreciate Trustee Nava Flores for speaking up on behalf of students. They spoke beautifully and with incredible confidence and power, and you were so well prepared. And so I just really appreciate your advocacy on behalf of our students. And I want to wish everyone a very happy new year. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Trustee Mayo.
Yes, thank you. I too want to wish everyone a happy new year. The holiday was a little longer this time, so I hope you enjoyed the longer break. I want to thank M&O for all of their work, especially in some of my Pleasant Hill schools, not just my, but our Pleasant Hill schools. I know we've kept you busy because there are some popular areas where the water likes to gather and hang out for a little while. And then we had some tree falling in our area. I want to congratulate our distinguished schools. That's an exciting announcement. I'm sure Dr. Clark will be sharing more about that. And I did attend the special ed CAC meeting last week. I have two announcements that some of the members of the public may be interested in. On March 11, the Contra Costa County Science and Engineering Fair will occur. It's a competition for grades 7 through 12. It will be held at Los Medanos College. Student applications and informations were due this month, but now I'm in the process of recruiting judges. So if you are available on March 11th to help judge the competition, we would certainly enjoy having you there. You just have to have a keen interest in science. We train you, and your day as a judge starts at 7 in the morning and you conclude around 3. So watch for information or reach out to me regarding that event. Then for PTA on February 17th, the Contra Costa County District PTA, which is 32nd District PTA, will be holding a Founders Day celebration to celebrate the 126th anniversary of PTA, and it'll be at the Lone Tree Golf Conference Center in Antioch. And we're very excited to announce that the National PTA President, Anna King, will be there, the California State PTA President, Carol Green, Superintendent Tony Thurmond will attend, the Secretary of State, Shirley Weber, will be in attendance, and of course, our Superintendent of County Schools, Lynn Mackey, will also be in attendance. So it'll be a gala evening celebrating students who will be awarded graduating high school senior scholarships, as well as our reflections winners. So we'll hope that you'll join us for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Khan.
All right. Thank you. Yes, and congratulations again to our distinguished schools, Walnut Acres, Bancroft, and Sequoia. For everyone's hard work. I know it's the staff and the teachers, it's also the parents and the families and everyone really coming together, as a team to make that possible. So congratulations. I did get to attend some of the TNTP rounds this morning at Valley Verde Elementary and Woodside Elementary. And it was really great to be able to see the principals deeply engaged in exploring the math teaching standards and how to ensure rigor in their classrooms. And so I look forward to continuing the discussions about math in our district this year. And I would love to hear from teachers too about what kinds of supports they're finding are best helping them to reach those rigorous math goals that we have. So I would love to see examples of that. I too want to congratulate and thank Trustee Nava Flores for their advocacy in at this Concord City Council meeting to stop the sale of vape and flavored tobacco that targets our youth. As a result of the group's advocacy, the council voted 5-0 to direct staff to draft the ordinance, which was amazing because that's not what the staff report said. The staff report was basically recommending that they maybe possibly put it on a future agenda item at some point in time. So that was good news. I did get to attend the Mount Diablo Council of PTAs meeting again, where Trustee Mayo continues to tirelessly support the group, both as an organization, but also by mentoring individual PTA leaders. And so we're so fortunate to have Trustee Mayo's amazing volunteerism in that role. And it was wonderful to hear PTA leaders sharing best practices, ideas with each other, and sharing challenges too. You know, in this day and age, it's can be challenging to recruit successors to lead these organizations, and to fill key roles. So thank you to all the parents out there who are stepping up in one form or fashion. And also congratulations to Ignacio Valley High student Jamari Ivar, whose submission to the Reflections Art Contest moved on to the next level at the council level of the PTAs. And then lastly, just been hearing a lot from a number of schools that have experienced an influx of newcomers, even just in the past month. From Afghanistan and Central America. And so I'm really thankful that we have in place the MOU agreement with Refugees and Immigrants in Transition organization, and that they're beginning now to have a presence on our campuses and to help us put the systems into place to be able to support these students. Our district is really leading in this area. We should be proud of the work that we're doing. For example, there was just last week an Afghan Health Leadership Consortium where people from all over the state were attending this, and two of the key presenters were people from our community, our area, that are working in our schools. Dr. Popal from the Noor Islamic Community Center and Kajal Shahali from Refugee and Immigrant Transitions. So it's really great to see us figuring out how to truly serve all students in our district. So I look forward to a great 2023 and hope to get out to visit more schools and classrooms. So invite us out. I'm particularly interested, of course, in math, also in the how we are teaching, the science, using the science of reading, the research-based practices in reading, and also how we're providing education technology supports, for example, to students who may have dyslexia or other needs that sometimes we can provide something that is quite simple, and it's just a matter of providing that one piece of technology and the training that it requires. And that's something that I think we can ramp up. And especially if we can point out where it's working really well and then expand on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Nava.
Thank you. I started off my week by participating in the Concord City Council meeting, and they were reviewing the tobacco retail license, and I, along with members of the Social Justice Club from Mount Diablo High School, spoke up and advocated how these poor tobacco retail license, but also these policies really do affect members in our community, but specifically are targeting our youth. And with the research that we did, I just wanted to share a couple of points that I made clear during my speech. And that is that a third of Concord tobacco retailers, 30 out of 89 of them, are within 1,000 feet of a school. And then, for example, for reference, just 2 blocks away from my high school, there's a liquor store. But what I also highlighted in my speech is how concerning it is, how accessible purchasing these items are, but also going back to how certain student populations, but also certain populations in general, are being targeted. Tobacco is more discounted in areas that are populated of people of color, and these themselves being highly populated by K through 12 youth. And I, along with many other community advocates, asked and demand that we face this inequality and face this disparity that we are facing, that I'm facing every single day. And in solving this, we will see and hopefully reach economical and racial equity to all citizens of Concord. So I just wanted to share that with you all. On Wednesday, I met with Mr. Maki, that's out in the audience. I, along with other students of Mount Diablo High School, were interviewed and also were able to taste some food. It was kind of like, I think that it's on Food Network. The show is called Chopped. Yeah, we kind of had like a little chop moment where we were just like trying these different meals that we're looking into implementing into our school meals district wide. But we're starting off here at Mount Diablo High School because of course we are like the cultural hot pot of our district where we have students from all different backgrounds, from all different cultures and heritage. And we're looking into implementing like cultural meals, making sure that our students feel represented, that we feel included into the food that we are consuming, and that we are encouraged to eat. As a teenager, but even as a high school student, I know the importance that it is to eat and how it really does influence how you can focus throughout the day, providing you energy and providing you the even just like the feeling like, you know, like you have the energy to continue throughout your day. But something that I wanted to highlight with this is that we're looking into including more like vegetarian options, vegan options, gluten-free, that are lactose-free. But also, I discussed this with Sharice the other day, implementing halal meals. And like I said, students can feel represented and included in their schools themselves, and again, represented, seen, valued, and honored in their schools. So that was really exciting, and I'm really glad that, like Trustee McFerrin mentioned, that it's something that students are always advocating for, the school meals, and how, again, like if a lot of students are talking about this, it means that it is important and it does matter to us. And the fact that we are moving towards solutions and effective resources and alternatives for our students that they will end up enjoying. I'm really proud of that. That same night, we held a student advisory committee, and we met with Mrs. Hartwick, the social studies and history specialist, and we gave our input, all of our students, with our experiences, specifically when we've been taught any history in general. And so we all went around, shared our own experiences, what we want to see, and the positives and the negatives. And I wanted to share a couple with you. Really, this 3-day weekend that we had, Monday, we honored as Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I do want to speak on behalf of that it wasn't really talked about or mentioned as it should have. And a lot of the times that when it is talked about, it's through in our history classes. And like I mentioned before, history repeats itself. And for students to be taught history, especially being connected with primary resources, being connected with like identity exploration, or even just allowing students a space to learn about themselves, their culture, and their history, whether that's through history itself or through ethnic studies, which again will soon be a requirement, really will impact the way that we see our future and our future leaders. And again, ensuring that it's being taught with restorative justice measures. It's being taught with respect, dignity, and cultural competency. And a couple of things that I did want to mention that were discussed that are very common in our experiences that we get, again, connecting with identity exploration, exploring our own history and our own culture, and being connected with that, having the space to speak about and provide your own experiences, and being able to tell both sides of history. A lot of the times, and even till now, we're only taught the Eurocentric white dominant side of history and white superiority. And I'm really happy and I'm really proud to say that we are moving to diversify our curriculum, and we're looking to implement restorative measures where we are teaching things in depth and exploring through primary resources, but also through open discussions, that creating our students' critical thinking skills or innovative skills. And with that, I also want to mention how in experiences that many of us have faced, not only me as a student and those in the advisory committee, but also in general, is that we tend to face discrimination and sometimes harmful comments towards us when we are learning certain subjects or certain times in history. So it's really important that not only the students themselves, but the teachers and the educators are providing a safe space that is open for advocacy and that is also open for students to speak up about. But that being said, we've also faced there's a misconception that students of color should know about every single historical event that has occurred in the past. So this just being said, when we are looking to diversify our school curriculum and our social, especially our social studies, that it's being taught, like I said, with respect, dignity, honor, and cultural competency, but also with a social justice lens. Not only through the students being open-minded of their own biases and rethinking the things that they have been taught, the teachers and educators themselves, making sure that it is a safe space, that they are aware of their own place, their own biases, and their own experiences in speaking or even teaching our young students in the material that they're taught. And then I also wanted to mention that I have been meeting with some community leaders and also some just interviewing students here and there. And something that I've been hearing repeatedly is music appreciation, but also again going back with the food that's being served in our district. So with music appreciation, I just want to highlight that with Prop 28, we'll soon get funding for specific arts and music, but also then with the food and nutrition side aspect, we are working towards better solutions. And in regards to safety of our school district, again, going back with the extreme weather that we were just having, the heat, making sure that we have functioning heaters, that we have access to basic necessities, such as water, or like I mentioned with heating, resources in our classrooms. And if they're not functioning, to make sure to reach out. And lastly, I just want to also talk about something that happened early in the week at Alkalani's High School. A staff administered naloxone, a medication, successfully to a student that was having medical emergencies. And at Mount Diablo High School, we actually received certification and training to handle these medications in our healthcare and patient care pathway. We received an opioid overdose education and naloxone distribution certification. So I just wanted to highlight that. And I just want to end off with a couple of news. We have the HBCU fair occurring February 2nd from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at Mount Diablo High School. For those of you that are attending, which everyone is encouraged, please make sure that you have your transcript, that you can earn acceptance on the spots and also scholarships. And lastly, I also want to encourage all seniors that the Rosmore Scholarship has just opened up, and it's available for students attending Alkalani's High School, College Park, Concord, Las Lomas, Mount Diablo High School, Northgate, and Ignacio Valley High School. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My board report is to talk about board reports. So we did a really good job today of being focused. Well, so one, I want to reflect back to like about a year ago when Mr. Willie Mims, well, we were across the way, and he like hurried up and gave Laura a card to come up here and tell us, you got to do something about your board reports because they're too long. And it was funny. And we know he's right sometimes, but we actually did a really good job today. But what I've been thinking and reflecting on is how as we strive to be as we strive to be student outcomes focused and really keep and center students, that we do that in our reports most of the time, because I think these are a great way for us to get to know each other and know what's going on, and for people to know what we care about as individual trustees. And so my proposal, though, is that if later in the agenda, we decide who's on what committee this year. One proposal is that if both members attended that same meeting, so if both trustee Mason and I attend ABAR, only one of us needs to report out on ABAR. And when we report out on the meetings that we attend, we share at least one like very student focused thing that we got out of that and that people should know, because our general community isn't attending every one of these meetings. And so that requires coordination between your partner, but I think we can do it. And then again, just between our announcements and our reflections, which I really think we should do more of in a way, is our reflections, is just keeping when you're thinking it or writing it, just thinking about how does this pertain to our students at MGUSD? How does it help them? How does it help us to move them forward? Happy New Year as well. Thank you. Dr. Clark.
Thank you. I just have a quick presentation just to go over. First of all, I want to welcome everyone to our first meeting of the year. As always, just really looking at our LCAP goals. I really think that with these goals, you just kind of have to just look at the first goal, all students. That's all means all. If we go back to the presentation on our data, I think that we saw certain student groups who were consistently in certain brackets. And so when we say all, what does that actually mean? And then, what is a high quality education in a safe and welcoming environment? Of course, our environment should be safe. They definitely should be welcoming in the office, in the classrooms. We should have high expectations for all of our students. Each of our students should have access to technology, and the instruction should be on the California state standards, grade level California state standards, and all of our students should be prepared for college and career when they leave us. So maybe each meeting I'll break down a different goal, but I think if we just focus on goal number one, that really does hit the areas that we need to work on. And then also just our kind of our equity and unity and opportunity triangle with educational equity at the base, and learning acceleration and social emotional learning as our focus. And I think those are things that we're doing a good job throughout the district on working on, but clearly by looking at our data, there's so much more work that needs to be done, and very excited to continue that work. We've had quite the storm. Storm 2023 was the way to kind of start off the year. I know Trustee Mayo gave a shout out to our maintenance and operations department, but I just really want to highlight that's not a car in our district, just so you guys know. That didn't happen.
I was worried.
But we did have four trees fall at 2 schools. We had a couple of fences damaged, we had a roof damaged, and we had access to a bridge that was trapped from a tree, so folks couldn't cross over that. Of course, we had minor flooding throughout different quads and different areas, parking lots and things like that. But I really have to kind of just really acknowledge our maintenance and operations team who was out on New Year's Eve when there was nonstop rain all day and going around the sites. Sometimes with heavy rains, it sets off the fire alarms. And so we had alarms going off and whatnot. So just a big shout out to them, Melanie Kozlow and her team, just really responded when it was needed. So, so again, we got the rain that we needed, and now, we're going to get it in every other week or so might be a little helpful, but just want to acknowledge the storm, and hopefully, our families that are out there, didn't have major damage to their homes or flooding or any damage from falling trees and whatnot, but something to be mindful of. California's distinguished schools, Mount Diablo has a great deal to be proud of just around so many of the things that we're doing. And 3 of our schools were nominated, well, were basically recognized as distinguished schools. And I just want to read this quick quote. Since its inception in 1985, the California Distinguished Schools Award remains one of the important ways to celebrate exceptional schools, districts, teachers, and classified employees for their innovation, talent, and success in supporting students. And that came from a CDE website. And our 3 schools that were that achieved this recognition are one of only 356 elementary schools statewide that have been recognized for this honor. And so the indicators were also from the dashboard, which we got a firsthand account of, assessment results, chronic absenteeism, suspension rates, and socioeconomic data. And so we are extremely proud of Bancroft Elementary School, of Sequoia Elementary School, and Walnut Acres Elementary School. And they deserve all of the recognition, the credit, the accolades that goes with being excellent schools and great places for young people to learn and for parents to send their students. So I know we have 33 other elementary schools, but today and for the next several months, we're going to celebrate these 3 schools and give them their due. And I'm extremely proud to lead and work with a team that supports these schools. Over last week, as we just kind of went through the dashboard data, there's many conferences that are put on by the Association of California School Administrators, which we call ACSA. And as we went through the dashboard data, and you're talking chronic absenteeism, you're talking about groups that historically underperform, you're talking about students who are in special education, students who are suspended, chronic absenteeism, all those things. There is one conference that brings together student services and special education folks from throughout the state who really come together and really focus on systems, processes, procedures on how we can best support these students. And I was extremely proud to be part of a team from Mount Diablo that was there and was not only learning the best practices, but also sharing best practices. So just a small example of some of the presentations that took place by Mount Diablo staff. Winning Without Competing, Student Services Dream Team, Leading for Equity, Our Children Need You More Than Ever, Equity Through MTSS, Positive Outcomes for All, Preparing for the Unthinkable, Post-Vention Readiness, which is families after there's been a suicide. That was presented by one of our own. Leading for Student Success, Now Boarding Pupil Administrative Services Flight 101. So just super proud of Dr. Felicia Stuckey-Smith, who oversees our Student Services Department, Dr. Wendy Aguili, who oversees special ed and student services as well, and their teams. We had social workers there. We had, Stephanie Roberts is in the audience. She was there. We had program specialists, our foster and homeless advocates. We had a whole team of Mount Diablo folks there, and literally, throughout the state, folks were coming to us to find out things that we're doing in our district to support students, who are chronically absent, ways that we can better serve our students who have IEPs, 504s, things of that nature. So, again, just very, very proud to be part of that and to get to see some of our staff members in action at the state level, really advocating for kids and for systems that support students and all students. So something we should be very, very proud of. I just real quickly want to just touch on some of the planning that we're doing for next year. We always have to be, half a year ahead. Where the enrollment center is open and happening for our TK and kindergartens. kindergarten students and families, and that's down at Willow Creek. At the secondary level, we are already starting to collect secondary student course selections. I saw a picture online of students from Valley Verde being spoken with from the staff over at College Park and really collecting their class requirements already. And the reason why we're doing this is so that we can ensure on our master schedules that we have classes that students want to take and students need to take. And so we want to transform our master schedules into student-centered master schedules where students have the opportunities to engage in curriculum that that excites them, that motivates them, gets them the requirements that they need so that they can pursue college and career. So we're very, very excited about that. We're having multiple meetings on the secondary master schedules so that we're making sure that we're balancing classrooms, getting staff in the right place, hiring where we have holes so that all that can be done before we open up for students next year. Soon we're going to have a demographer study and report. We also look at our school site Aries report. So if you have a certain number of kids, if a school has a certain number of second grade classes, then next year they're expected to have the same number of third grade classes. We understand that that people come into the district and leave the district. And so, we're going to look at those past trends. When do certain communities, come in and register? Is there more transient communities that we serve, or are there communities that are pretty stable in terms of enrollment? But all of this is to ensure that we're having the least amount of disruptions to our schools. We're going to be sending out surveys to staff. Well, we've already sent out surveys to staff to see their intent to return, at least our teachers, to find out, hey, if you're retiring, if you're moving out of state, if you're going to be looking for another position, please let us know now so that we can start that process. And we've heard back from about half of our teachers on this. And also, we want to put a shout out to parents that if parents know that they're going to be moving next year or leaving or something, like they're having some sort of change or whatnot, that they can inform their school offices as soon as possible. So again, we can continue to plan. Every year at the beginning of the year, there's always going to be some sort of balancing that needs to take place. But the more that we can be proactive in this area, the better off for our students, for our staff members, and for our parents. I want to give an update on school community safety. We have a campaign, See Something, Say Something. We have been working with the folks from the Sandy Hook Promise, and we actually vetted several different companies and resources, and that is one that we've come up with. However, our world is so challenging right now that they are booked solid and kind of bringing us on board. So we are in the queue to get to bring this service to all of our schools, where this will be on our website. Students, family members, staff members, if they see something, they have a concern about something's not safe, something's dangerous, then they have an anonymous tip line in there. And also there are several features out there that if a student is going through a major event, that there are some services and some assistance that they can get help with. As of now, we do have links on our secondary school site websites where they can report and give tips as of now, but that is something that we've created. And we're looking to bring in a company to set up something that is more sustainable and from a third party. We do monitor, our Google platform, so Gmail, Google Docs, things in that way, so that if there are those trigger words, suicide, guns, shootings, self-harm, things like that, we already have this system in place where our administrators get dinged and our district office staff get dinged when those things happen. And so we do follow up on those. It's called the BARC system. And actually, at the beginning of this year, we upgraded to sort of the next level, to a more sensitive level, so that we can continue to monitor those things. As this board knows, we have gone into contract with an outside consulting agency to come in and to review our safety plans, to walk our sites, look at our camera positions, do trainings with our staff. You know, for the first time in a long time, we're having, you know, we've had the district office looked at, and we're, you know, looking at emergency exits, evacuation plans, things of that nature. All of our school sites already have those in place, but oftentimes, because we don't have students here, like, we don't think of those, but there are, you know, over 100 people working here, so we do have to you know, include that. We are making sure that our school site safety teams are, you know, are backing up and running, and that they're able to give input and get that training as well. So we're really focusing on that school community safety. When I say school community, I mean our students, our staff, parents when they're dropping off, and obviously the community at large. So you know, these are challenging times in our worlds, and we just want to make sure that that our staffs and our folks who are in charge of taking care of young people have all the trainings and resources that they need. I want to give a special shout out tonight to the Northgate girls basketball team. They've had some challenges with a cross district rival, Akalani's High School, and tonight they are hosting Akalani's, and so I'm hoping that the Mount Diablo Unified School District has rolled out the red carpet for our guests. But if you wonder why Samantha Allen, our secondary director, is not here tonight, or why Chris Clausen, our other secondary folks, is not here, they are supervising and helping supervising the basketball game to make sure that it's a safe event for all, both fans and players. And so, you know, again, we have sports going throughout our district, but I just wanted to give a special shout out to them. And I don't want to get in the habit of calling out sports teams and whatnot, but I at least owe this to them. So that concludes my report. If there's any questions from the board, I'd be happy to entertain that. If not, we will move on to the consent items.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. We move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items anyone would like to remove?
I would like to pull 15.6.
I would like to pull 15.8.
All right, so we're pulling 15.6 and 15.8. Given that, we can take the rest of the consent agenda.
Madam President, I move that we approve the consent agenda items, except for 15.6 and 15.8.
I second that.
Trustee Nava Flores.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. So
And just before they talk about 15.6 and 15.8, we have, since Samantha Allen isn't here, we have Ms. Sachs who will respond to that. And because it's a contract, Dr. Gonzalez will respond to that. So that's giving them time to look these items up and be ready to respond to the board member questions.
So now we have 16.1. Review and potential approval of an independent service agreement between Lux Cruises and Mount Diablo.
It's my usual thing. We have students going on a field trip. I really tried to rationalize this one, but I couldn't get myself there. Because at least this time it wasn't a go-between organization. It was actually, the contract was with the actual cruise place. But I couldn't get past kids being out on the bay on a boat with someone that could have made them uncomfortable, and we don't even know if that person's been fingerprinted or not. I am question for our council, because we have in the contract, number 6 on the contract that we do with everyone, that says that whoever we're contracting with will abide by fingerprinting. But then we have a opt out at the end, which I don't understand why we have the opt out. And I'm sure these places all have people that are fingerprinted. I don't understand. Maybe I could go, I could probably start a business. Go explain to them how you just come out with the form that says you do this like we do. I mean, because when I worked in after school, we couldn't have an assembly on the stage with all our staff watching without having them fingerprinted. So
So
I'm
the option is to to specify that they will have no contact with the student outside the supervision of school staff or parents. So in this case, there is going to be staff present at the event for and so therefore the cruise employees would actually be at all times under the supervision of our personnel. Now, I have spoken to the actual owner of this cruise because I actually anticipated that you would raise this issue and have made it clear to this individual that, and as well as to other individuals that we've dealt with in the past, that we want to actually see proof of fingerprinting for staff. So we're having those discussions outside of the context of this particular contract, because these are ongoing agreements that our sites have with these individuals, that rather than have them have these things repeat over and over again, we actually want to encourage them to actually go ahead and get everybody fingerprinted, and then not utilize that exception going forward. Now, provided, of course, legally they are allowed to do that, because and we do make sure that there is going to be supervision at all times by our personnel for these events.
thank you for that. And thank you for the rest of the board for your indulgence. But this is just something, maybe because I used to be safety manager where I worked before, but yeah, thank you.
I just also noticed that the form itself has changed over time, so it was revised last summer. So I appreciate that the section number 2 is on there now. I can't remember if it was before, but it was a different format. Now it seems clearer that Megan's Law, the sex offenders. So even if they check the box that they will have no contact with pupils, they still have to abide by the Megan's Law to ensure that none of their employees are listed, which is helpful. Thank you.
We need a motion for 16.1.
Madam President, I move that the board approve item 16.1 for independent service agreement between Lux Cruises and the Mount Diablo Unified School District on behalf of Ignacio Valley High School.
Second.
Trustee Nava Flores,
Yes.
that passes 4-1, and plus the student trustee. 16.2.
So my questions are fairly simple. I was curious, I understand and appreciate the benefit from this particular software management system that will help share and organize our English learner data. I was curious how individual teachers will be involved with the product. And I was also curious whether this purchase price of $90,000 is for the first 6 months until June 30th, or if it's for a full year, and what will the ongoing cost be per year?
Hello. We find a need to purchase a new software where we can gather all the data of English learners, because currently we have some data in iReady, some in ARIES, and we need, when we have to run reports, we have to merge different databases. And also when we go through the federal program monitoring, it's very difficult. The price of the $90,000 includes professional development for the principals, for the EL department, as well as the teachers. And they would have access to the information. The cost of it's for the first year, and it's $60,000 a year. So it will be for a whole year, not only 6 months.
All right. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
If there are no other questions, I would move that the board approve 16.2, the purchase of Elevation software to manage and share English learners' data.
Second.
Trustee Nava Flores,
Yes.
that passes unanimously. Home stretch, 18.0 business action items, 18.1 review and potential approval of the tentative agreement between California School Employees Association and Mount Diablo Unified for the 2022 to 25 collective bargaining agreement.
Yes.
And we have Mr. Sheehy who will take these next several items.
Right, excellent. I'm thrilled and excited to bring forward to you for the board's review and potential approval a 3-year closed contract with CSEA. I want to thank our MDUSD negotiation team, along with Annie Nolan, president of CSEA, Kim Montano, vice president of CSEA, Lucian Bischoff, the CSEA labor rep, and their entire team. We worked very collaboratively together, and after 5 negotiation sessions, we were able to come to this agreement. And I feel like this is an agreement that continues to carry out the dedicated work of our district board, looking at increasing our lowest paid employees and continuing to provide the best quality for our employees and for our students overall.
Madam Chair, as a proud ex-member of CSEA, I would like to move to approve the tentative agreement between California School Employees Association and the Mount Diablo Unified School District, reaching agreement for the 2022-2025 collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
Does our student trustee vote?
So Star, does the trustee, the student can vote on this, right? So labor agreement.
She can vote on it, but she cannot second it. So
Okay.
you don't want to second it?
No. Trustee Nava Flores?
Yes.
Hey. And that passes unanimously. Congratulations to all.
Good job.
And unfortunately, CSEA was not able to attend tonight, but I know they're at home celebrating. Thank you. Thank you.
18.2, review and potential approval of the side letter with Teamsters regarding food and nutrition services, job descriptions, salary schedule changes, and abolish the positions of FSA 1, 2, and 3 after all effective employees have been moved into new job titles.
Yes, and so this goes along with the board's commitment to evaluate our lowest paid positions and continue to increase those. This came after a long salary study that came out of the last CBA, the last contract, making sure that they were able to sit down and discuss this. I do want to thank Teamsters for coming to the table, as well as our district and our food services department that really came together collaboratively to come up with this plan. And so this plan, I believe, will continue to carry out the board's goal.
Madam President, I move to approve the side letter with Teamsters regarding food nutrition services job descriptions, food and nutrition assistant and food and nutrition services cook, salary schedule changes, and abolish the positions of FSA 1, 2, and 3 after all affected employees have been moved into the new job title positions.
Second.
I think I just want to make a comment. you went over it, like that we are eliminating positions, and we are in both of these that I assume we're going to approve, that we've lifted our lowest wage earners up quite a bit. And I know that in our district, everyone deserves to be paid as much as possible and to get as much as possible. But I feel really proud of us as a board for giving the direction to really address our lowest paid workers the most. And so, yes, I can't remember which unit is getting an 18% increase. Yes, because they make next to nothing, like literally next to nothing. And that other units that we're eliminating positions that shouldn't be earning so low, that could be impacted by minimum wage. Like, that's ridiculous. And that's a value that we all shared. So I'm really proud of you all, my fellow trustees, that we have been steadfast in this for about a year, I think, and that for you all for making it happen. Trustee Nava Flores.
Yes.
And that is unanimous. Yay. 18.3, review and potential approval of restructuring of Diablo Managers Association salary schedules, principals, management, and confidential unit. Do you want to present first and do social, and then do?
Yeah, I'll present first.
Thank you. Yeah, please.
All right. So Dr. Rubio wishes he could be here tonight. Unfortunately, he's at home sick. Don't worry, he's been on his phone and his email all day long, nonstop. But he had a message that I want to share with you. As a board tonight, you've corrected and adjusted what some long-term adjustments, and you continue to right the ship in a time where we need strong course correction. As a result, we are doing better by our employees, and we are keeping them longer and attracting them more easily. Staff is similarly recommending a correction and adjustment tonight to the DMA management salary schedule. We have not only been at the bottom when compared to other districts, this continues to make it hard and hold on to our staff. I know personally, when I came back to this district as a vice principal, I was told by our HR department then, Ryan, people don't come to Mount Diablo for the money. They come get the experience. Thank you. Get the experience and leave. And that's something that we as an HR department, as a member of this community, as a member of this district, that I want to correct. And we are bringing forward tonight an adjustment to the salary schedule. I do have a couple handouts that I'd like to pass out to you all, and I will leave some over there for the public as well. So the handout I gave you tonight is the elementary, middle school, and high school salary schedule as it currently sits, where it shows you compared to many other school districts surrounded around us. You will see that on the first page, Mount Diablo Unified, the elementary school principal is down at the bottom. The school districts in the red, those districts haven't posted their updated salary schedules. And so when they do post their updated salary schedules, there's a good chance that they will be even higher than what they currently are. You will see that the difference between MDUSD and the median is $20,000, a difference of 15.53% from where we currently pay to the median of elementary school principals. And the story is the same throughout. You flip to the middle school and the high school, you will see a very similar story. Now I have another handout for you that will show you where we would if the current proposal was approved, where we would be sitting. So the new handout that I just handed out has the numbers with the adjusted proposed salary schedule. You will notice that our proposal to you tonight is not to make Mount Diablo, our DMA management, the highest paid. Our proposal tonight is to bring our principals and our DMA management and DMA Confidential up to make it competitive, where you can see where we're going to be able to continue to retain people and we're going to be able to recruit other people into our district. As we lose people in our district, we lose our historical knowledge, we lose systems, we lose managers, and something that keeps our schools solid and keep our students learning each and every day. Any questions?
Any questions, trustees? I'll entertain a motion. Oh, comments.
comments?
Shoot, I forgot. I'm sorry, folks. Somebody only put their email, which was De Torres K. So I don't know who that is. They didn't put their name.
My full name is Kelly Torres.
Thank you, Kelly. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, esteemed board members, student trustee Nava Flores and Dr. Clark. My name is Kelly Torres. I'm the proud principal of Highlands Elementary School. I'm here tonight to thank you for your consideration to restructure the DMA salary schedule. I am a new principal, just second year into my principalship. I am happy to have found a home at MDUSD. I strongly believe in Mount Diablo's vision and initiatives to promote learning for all students. In a short amount of time, I have proven myself to be a valuable leader in promoting change and moving MDUSD's work forward. But I'm not the only valuable new administrator in MDUSD. As a young professional, I am working hard to create a life for myself in the Bay Area. I have family here and I love my job. Due to the low pay of MDUSD administrators, myself and some of my colleagues have been forced to explore opportunities outside the district. But let me be clear, I do not want to leave MDUSD. I love it here. I love my school site, but I'm finding it nearly impossible to make ends meet and build a life for myself outside of work while continuing my administrative education. The restructuring of the MDA salary would allow me to stay at the school I love, continue furthering MDUSD's mission, while also building a solid future for myself. My colleagues and I greatly appreciate your time and consideration in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Man, you guys, we have to read these. Christina, I don't know the last name. Welcome. Yes, Felios.
So sorry, it was a little scribbly.
It's okay. Everybody here knows who you are but me. It's good to meet you. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Clark. I'm Christina Felios Yanakopoulos, and I proudly serve MDUSD as the Assistant Director of Instructional Support. I also serve as the President-elect for Diablo Managers Association, and I'm here to express our deep appreciation of your consideration of the proposed restructured DMA schedule. For many years, our DMA membership has asked the district to conduct a salary study to examine how our managers' compensation compares with that of neighboring districts. Historically, we have struggled to attract and retain administrators and classified managers. And when our colleagues have left MDUSD for other districts, they have cited higher salaries as a key reason. We thank Dr. Clark and our human resources leadership for listening to our concerns and conducting a comprehensive salary study, and then moving to restructure the DMA salary schedule in response to those study findings. This newly restructured salary schedule accomplishes several important goals. First, it significantly increases the starting salary point for all DMA positions, which is so important in attracting and retaining the best managers to serve our schools, students, and district departments. Second, the schedule is much more competitive with neighboring districts, helping to keep our talented and dedicated managers in MDUSD. Third, it increases management's earning potential in MDUSD, again, offering an important incentive for managers to remain in their positions and to continue serving our district without frequent turnover. When we lose educational leaders to other districts, it becomes difficult to sustain progress towards our important district goals. and develop coherence across the district. Our Diablo managers support every site and every department in our district. We work passionately on behalf of students, families, and staff, and recruiting the best administrators and classified managers and retaining our talented and dedicated teams allows us to serve our students at the highest level. I thank the board for your consideration and ask that you please approve this item. Thank you.
Thank you. And Melanie Coslow.
Good evening, Madam President, Madam Vice President, member of the board, and Dr. Clark. I wanted to thank you for considering this proposed salary schedule for DMA. If you know me, you know that my commitment to the Mount Diablo community is immense. I want you to also know that my staff's commitment meets mine. With every twist and turn we endure, my staff takes on more and more responsibility. The proposed plan will allow the district to retain committed M&O managers, many whom were born and raised and work so hard for this community, as well as to attract future staff as we anticipate some retirements in the next several years. The span of control over many of the operational departments we house is large. The amount of responsibility my management staff and I have is great. We are a committed bunch, but by approving this proposed salary schedule, it will show the board's commitment to our department, just as you have been supporting our department's restructuring that we've been going through the last year. This is not only for my department, I'm just speaking on behalf of my department. We know that you're committed to all of our administrators, management, confidential staff throughout the district. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
When I worked in the after-school program, I was very intentional about who I hired, that I wanted to make sure they were people, and many of them went on to become teachers and some principals in our district, because I knew that to build a quality program, you have to have people who heart and soul are into helping the kids that you serve. And I think in order to create that environment, and I will say, I was known throughout the state for having the best retention rate of after-school staff anywhere, because they didn't get paid much, but they knew there was a future. They could become a site leader. They could become a teacher. And I think, although they won't see it this way, it's an investment in our teachers as well, because it gives them another step, another step, another step to achieve. So I am a full supporter of growing your own, keeping your own as long as you can, because I think that keeps the cohesiveness and the vision of the district moving forward. So I am happy to make a motion that we approve the restructuring of the Diablo Managers Association salary schedule, principal management, and confidential unit.
Am I reading the document correctly that the changes are effective January 1st rather than being retroactive to July 1st of 2022?
It should be effective February 1st.
February 1st. Thank you.
That makes it easier on the fiscal department, and so there's no retro pay.
Second.
Trustee Nava Flores.
Yes.
Trustee Mason's logging back into the thingy. And that passes unanimously.
If I may, I just want to, I want to thank this board. I know that, since my time here, this is going on my third year, we have been able to give increased compensation to all of our units, whether it be teachers, classified, whatnot. And this board has really been committed to that. And I know that, you know, there may not always be great financial days, and there haven't, you know, been great financial days in the past, but I think that we have said, this governance team, including me and this board, that if the funds were there, that we would put them out towards our employees once we took care of all the needs of what our students need. So going forward, there are still pockets of improvements that we need to make in terms of you know, negotiations and compensation and things of that nature. And so, although, you know, this is a great step in the right direction with all of our units, we still have work to do. We still need to continue to look, you know, because we do have some unicorn positions that may need attention or whatnot. And sometimes you have winners, you have losers. So even with this agreement, there's people who are going to benefit right away from this agreement, and there's other people who have more seniority who their benefit is going to come down the line. However, when you're dealing with these complex things, there's not always an easy solution. And so I want to, you know, acknowledge the work of our Human Resources Department. I want to acknowledge the work of our Fiscal Department. I want to acknowledge the work of everyone, because, you know, this is a team that we are, you know, that we're a part of, and we're all working together to better serve our students and our families. And so again, I just want to thank this board for their commitment to, you know, to respecting and taking care of all of our employees, which I know that you guys have always had that at your, you know, at your foundation, and I share that with you. And I think this is just another example of that commitment. So thank you.
18.4, review and potential approval of contract with Final Site for district website content management system.
We have, geez, why am I drawing a blank?
Teresa.
No, I know that. Teresa Branch. Okay, I was trying to get your last name correct. I don't know. It's late.
Hello, board members and Dr. Clark. I'm Teresa Brandt, the Public Information Officer, and I'm kicking off this presentation. Then our colleagues here will be following up. It's a pretty content-heavy PowerPoint, so we're not going to read each slide to you, but we basically are very excited about the idea of upgrading our website, which is also called the Content Management System, or CMS. And I've only been here a year and a half, but I'm fully in favor of this because I do deal with the website a lot. And the first issue was, why make a change? And the current website, if you've noticed, is it lacks a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do with the layout. There are certain ADA requirements that we're supposed to be following, which we are following as best as we can, but it's very cumbersome, and there are other website developers that have better systems for handling that. Right now we have limitations in terms of the permissions. We have a lot of staff members who go in and make changes to websites, and sometimes they make changes they're not supposed to be making, and then somebody else has to go in and correct those changes. As I already mentioned, the layout is an issue. The customer service has not been great when we do have issues, and the prices have been going up. And so that was probably the thing that made us actually get moving on this, is the price increases. So the process was that we created a team to look at the different options that were out there. And we reviewed the key players, so to speak, in terms of who's providing websites. Sorry. And we identified people within the staff who were interested in giving input, as well as parents. And we had surveys about what do people want to see in a website. And we took all these components and all these results, and then we identified 2 website vendors who kind of rose to the top in terms of meeting the requirements that we were looking for. And then we had 2 demonstrations from both the vendors, Final Site and Catapult, and we reviewed their presentations, and then we discussed them, and we got feedback from everybody, the staff members who watched the presentations, and we had a very overwhelming support for Final Site as opposed to Catapult. And then Robert was the one who negotiated the contract. And there is this line about, we didn't need to use the RFP process because we're using TIPS, and they can answer any questions about that.
Hi, I think you guys know me. Laura Duranick, I'm the executive assistant to the superintendent and the board.
I love this. This is a good look.
A lot of people on the team and looking at that, we had a variety of people. We wanted to make sure we had people from different, who were looking at the website at a lot of different perspectives and had different intentions and uses of the website. So there was a big group of us. We had from the district offices as well as school sites. And we also included some, the staff and site leaders and teachers and whatnot. And what we were, as I'm not going to read through all of this because as Teresa said, it is content heavy. So we'll switch over. And when it came down to why did we like Final Site? Well, why didn't we? There were so many things on that we were just shouting for joy with. The ADA compliance and web accessibility made a huge impact on us. We currently are missing some of those pieces. And as one of the lucky people who gets to go in and try and fix some of those errors, I can tell you that the advanced compliance that's already established there is going to be a huge impact for us, as well as the flexibility in designing the pages. Currently, we're locked into a very few templates. What Final Site was showing us is they've got templates that you start with, and then you can subdivide those, and then you can create this, and then you can do that. So it gives us a lot more possibilities and flexibilities in design as we're going through that. There's just one thing after another that we really enjoyed on that. We love the drag and drop thing. And then as Teresa kind of touched upon too, is that we can go down to kind of minutia detail on who can have access to one thing or another. We've had occasions where we've given access for somebody to do a page, but because of the limitations, oops, they took off a whole department, or oops, our whole website's redesigned. That's been fun to try and fix. So those things are going to be a little bit quite relieved when we move to Final Site. All right, Robert?
Excuse me. Thanks, Laura. Good evening, everybody. And by the way, the more people who can stand here instead of me, the better. So, I just wanted to, yeah, that's the right slide. My bad. I just wanted to go through a handful of things, not geeking out on you too much here, but just a handful of really cool things that we're going to get as part of this. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited about switching our website to something that I think is going to be much better for our community, provide a much better face for the district, and provide some additional functionality for those working behind the scenes, and then also some better tools for us as well. So I'm not going to go through all of these. I've got 6 or 7 slides that are about as busy as this one. I'm just going to hit some really key highlights here. Easy to use CMS. That means that we have a really user-friendly interface. That's been something that we've got a lot of feedback from our sites who are actually managing the content on their school websites. It's going to be much, much easier for them to do that into the future with this. We have something that we did not have with School Loop, which is a substantially better support mechanism through the company. It's a small fee on top of, as part of this overall fee. It's worth it. Trust me, it is something that is really needed. When something goes down, when something's not working right, we have that immediate support with the company by phone, by their ticketing system. We're going to get fantastic support through them. They've been really good through the negotiations that Lisa and I have conducted. And really, I'm confident that this is a great company that we're going to be happy to do business with. Quality assurance is another element that is really important. And this is, Teresa was talking about our accessibility needs. We need to provide a website to our community that is accessible to everybody, no matter any disabilities or other restrictions they may have on their ability to access content. That's our responsibility as good citizens of our community. This site has, or this tool has, some really cool features that allow us to really make sure that those ADA errors are identified and that we can correct those as soon as we possibly can. In fact, we can identify those before even publishing content on our site. This is a weird name, but a really cool feature. This actually allows translation of content for all users, whichever language they choose up to. It's over 100 languages that they can translate in basically at the click of a button. Pretty cool stuff. Calendars. Users can subscribe to calendars. I'm sure everybody's going to be subscribing to the IT department calendar as soon as we launch this website in end of June. But no, seriously, if you've got a student at if you've got students at 2 or 3 different schools, you can subscribe to the calendars and get notifications as they come in for those sites. Yeah, please do subscribe to the IT calendar when it comes out. Page pops. Page pops are those little things that pop up when you first go to a website that appear from time to time. We'll have control over those. Individual sites will have control over those. If there are some timely notifications that you want everybody to see when they come to your website, those are those little sort of like splash messages that pop up, and you can add those and remove those as you choose as a content manager. I won't go into the search options in any great detail. What I want to talk about, and here's me geeking out a little bit, we get tons of cool analytics on this. We're going to know who's clicking on what, not necessarily who's clicking on what, but how many folks are clicking on what. That's really important when you're designing a website, because if you've got lots of clicks on the things that's on the bottom of your page, you might want to think about moving that. So things like that are going to be really helpful for our community to find our website more accessible and approachable. And lastly, for me, this is pretty cool. We're going to have a district app available on the iOS, for Android. It's going to be something that folks can just download. They can sign into if they choose, so they can get their own customized notifications. But it will allow us also to not just have folks have access to the website content, but it will also allow us to include links to things like HomeLink, Aries HomeLink, to things like Parent Square, all of those sorts of things that we'd like people to have that kind of one-stop shop for on their cell phones, which of course is the internet they have with them all the time. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Lisa.
I have to say that during COVID, so much of what we did was reactive. And this is our opportunity to really be proactive with something that for us hasn't been working for a really long time. And now we've got the staff to be able to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about timeline and next steps. I'm sure as soon as this board presentation is over, should there be a successful agreement with this, with moving forward with a contract, that Robert will be sending a message to try to get the kickoff meeting started as soon as possible. We're going to be taking about a 6-month process and narrowing it down to a little more than 5 months. But we're confident that we can do that. We've received a great deal of support from other school districts, including San Ramon, who recently updated their website to really talk through like, what are those phases and what do you need to do? And so the templates that we've been given already have been exceptionally helpful in this process. But in February, discovery, drafting, color palettes, March, data integration. And one of the things that we built into this contract is the fact that data integration, they're going to be working on integrating and moving over as many of our pages as possible, which is huge for us because it means that we need to clean up what we have, but we don't need to do all of that work of movement. So that's been super helpful. We've got the design phase, building, production, Q&A, testing, and we're saying this is going to be ready by July 1st, but everybody out there who knows me knows that it's always a few days ahead of time. So we're going to be ready by the end of June so that July 1st, we can actually flip the switch because we want to make sure that we are not continuing to pay for the site that we already have in place. So technically for 5 months, we're going to be doing 2 things simultaneously, but actually the setup cost is all that we're paying for the first half of this year. And then the annual cost will kick in. And we're actually, are we using CMAS or are we using TIPS? Okay, so sorry, we didn't get this corrected. So the way that it works with TIPS, it's a joint power agreement, and any companies that want to be able to have low prices so they get the greatest visibility with school districts, so we don't need to necessarily negotiate a lot of prices, we're able to go through TIPS. And so the price is locked in for the first 5 years, but typically what you see with these types of JPAs is they're not going to go in and drastically raise their prices, which is unlike what we've been seeing over the last few years. And I know that you commented and noticed that as well. So it's going to be $46,000 for the setup, and then the annual cost per year is going to be another $74,000 and change. what our current provider has been doing, and I ran some numbers there because I wanted to see what this looked like, but they've been increasing our prices about 21% a year. When I ask why, the response is because we can. And so if you take a look at what they've been doing over the last few years and you just send that out a few years, you can see that we're going to be saving money fairly quickly. And what we are going to have for our public is super exciting. I mean, the number of individuals that were on these Zoom meetings and the excitement, and he talks about, you know, geeking out and jazzing out, but we were really excited to think about the potential of what we'll be able to offer our community in less than 6 months. So on behalf of the planning team and the vendor review team, we had almost unanimous support. It was 25 of 26 members. And actually, when I went back and I tallied the whole thing, there was one person that put, you know, Final Site / Catapult. So they kind of played in both sides of the game there. But overwhelming support for Final Site. And again, these were really end users, the individuals who are really going to be working with the site on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and it will be ready to launch before July 1st. So that's our recommendation. And any of us are happy to answer questions. Right, Laura?
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm really excited about this as a board member, but also as a parent. It's one of the things, you know, that we get a lot of complaints about. When you showed the advanced search piece, I was just laughing to myself because the times that I've gone to our district website and tried to type anything into the search bar, I don't think it's functional. Like it doesn't work, right? So there's so many pieces to this that will be helpful, and the mobile piece and the translation piece, I think, are some really key pieces as well. But I really like how you put together this as a collaborative team to get all the different perspectives. I think that was a really smart way to do it, and an effective way to really plan this out properly, and to think about not only the user experience, but also the content manager experience, because I know I hear that from our principals, our teachers, anybody that's trying to update something on the website and then it goes wrong, and the amount of time wasted and frustration that goes into that. You know, that's going to be a huge improvement as well. So thank you.
I'm excited too. The websites are something I've played in a little bit, but many years ago. When you mentioned translations, which is critical, will that be for the primary text that's posted on the website, or will it also be able to alter the PDFs? Or will we still be able to post PDFs? You know, many of our documents are PDF.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It will be for the primary text on the website. PDFs are more difficult for websites to deal with that way. What the recommendation is and the best practice is that we avoid posting PDFs online that way. And I know that's not always possible, but that is the best practice, is to make sure that it's actually web content, not a PDF. So we'll work with our content managers to do the best we can to at least transition over to where that content's provided in a more in an easier format where folks can translate that appropriately.
Okay, then I do have a question about migration. And that's of information that's currently on the current site that would be deemed essential and moved to the new website. The documents that are in electronic school board, do those live with electronic school board, or are they documents within our website?
Those live in electronic school board, the majority of those. We do have some of the web pages that we've got designed, the sub pages within the board meeting information pages, where we post additional agendas and board minutes and all of that. Those are things that we're linking to ESB at this moment. But going back to, I believe, 2007, the information lives within ESB as far as the actual agendas. And this year I've loaded minutes into ESB, so those are also living there. So that might be a task when we get beyond this piece, like a secondary thing to start loading some of the prior ones as well. And it helps us to store some of that information a little bit differently.
So I appreciate all of that information because this holiday, I received a request about information that may have existed somewhere at some point of time in the district in the last 10 years. Somebody couldn't find it on the website, so they called me. And I had some helpful information, but I couldn't find it on the website either. And we've gone through different, what do I want to say, upgrades to the website over time, and links get broken. The information may still be there somewhere. It's just finding the breadcrumbs that would get to that particular item. And I know that's an old term, but it's appropriate. So I'm pleased to hear that there is a solid plan for migration. And my last question, and you mentioned it partially, was how many other districts in Contra Costa County use the system? And you said San Ramon does, perhaps, or not.
San Ramon does not. One of the districts that we're going to start working closely with is Long Beach because they just made this transition. I don't know who else. We can get you that
I
information.
was just curious.
Yeah, no, it's the process that San Ramon went through for the selection and the migration and the whole process of redoing their website. We are following all of their templates, but they went with Catapult.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think in the survey, at least the parent survey that was posted, it listed what other districts were using each of them, but I can't remember.
Entertain a motion or
Madam President, I move to approve a contract with Final Site for a district website content management system, CMS, for a period of 5 years.
I need a second.
Second,
Trustee Nava Flores.
Yes.
Oh, the Long Beach side is pretty. That passes unanimously. Yay, I'm so happy for you all and happy for us. 18.5, review and potential approval of the 2023 summer school one-time compensation rate.
Yes. And tonight I have for the board's review and potential approval, the 2023 summer school one-time compensation rate. Our summer school planning team is already underway. We have been planning for this upcoming summer. And one of the big things that we do to kick off is publish these rates, because what that allows us to do is allows us to start taking applications, which we plan to do over the next few months, and then trying to get people assigned as we start enrolling students for summer school.
Questions or motion?
Madam President, I'll move to approve the 2023 summer school one-time compensation rate.
I'll second that.
Trustee Nava Flores.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Review and potential 18.6, review and potential approval of school plans for student achievement. We reviewed these last meeting. So are there any further questions or comments? Not. Can I entertain a motion?
I would move to approve the 2022-23 school plans for student achievement as presented.
second,
Trustee Nava Flores.
Yes.
And that is unanimous. 18.7, review and potential approval of updates of board policies and administrative regulations, the zeros, the 2000s, and the 5000s. We received, we were presented these in November. It was a while ago. October. Thank you, Laura. I know it was a while ago because I feel like I've been lugging them around.
So just, this is an ongoing process as we set out well over a year ago to update all of our CSBA policies in order to be able to get access to the new CSB platform to be able to display our policies. So many of our policies were out of date and were in need of being updated, that we went through the process of contracting with CSBA to update all of our policies. What CSBA recommended to us, and which I've shared with this board previously, was that we need to adopt all policies, make the changes where we could, but then adopt the baseline policies, which we've been doing. And then once we transition to the new site, then we can start updating all of our policies that have the Mount Diablo very specific language included in it. So, so again, that work is ready to go, but we need to go through and get through this process first. We have already approved the, you know, the 1,000s, the 3,000s, the 6,000s, the 8,000s, the 9,000s. The last group we're waiting on is the 4,000s. And so tonight we bring to you the 0s, the 2,000s, and the 5,000s. And just so I know that you guys received some emails, current practices that, you know, that are within Ed Code are still going to be in place with our previous policies until we complete the updates of all of our ARs and whatnot. So any sort of transfer policies, things like that are still in place and are still part of our system for this particular year. And if they're not illegal, then there's no reason to change them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Tatiana, I apologize, Leskowitz. Your job. I took your job.
Hello, I have two children in dual immersion and my kids are transfer kids, and I think you've got a lot of email based on my network. And mostly about the transfer, the cohort transfer being eliminated. But that's not what I want to talk to you about because you already got those emails. I look back on October 26th is the last time this came up for information. And Trustee Mason said, and I quote, "We could be here a long time if we want to wordsmith all this." 368 pages to be exact. That's my addition. And then if I was someone who's working for someone who said that, next time I'd bring something smaller, but you know, that's subtle. Then Trustee Khan said, well, how about, was it the policy 0450, the comprehensive safety plan? It says it was revised in 2018, but options are still there. And I remember that we did this. Please, she turned, please make sure next time you bring it, it's updated. I went back, I compared it bit by bit. None of the updates happened. There's no change, which curious, I went digging further. This does not end. I looked at the transfer policy, near and dear to my heart. Sorry, not this comprehensive safety plan, but 5116.1, that's the regulation. It says it was originally adopted on November 1st, 2008, and last revised December 1st, 2019. I looked at the board meetings for that. First of all, there were no board meetings on those dates at all. I looked for the revised dates for all of December. None of it was discussed in December. So I don't know whose policies those are. When they were revised, they're not ours. Then Gamut, it's out of date. It's 2010. So I don't even know what the actual current policy is. As a community, we were kind of going back and forth. I think I remember something in 2019. And someone said, oh, I remember 2020. I found something in 2020. So it's very hard for us, the community, to know what the rules are by which we are living. And now you're adopting a new policy, which once again isn't ours because the dates don't match up. But you're saying that the old traditions hold. Is that legal? Will the policy, when will the policy go into effect? Will you vote when the policy will go into effect? What's happening? So I suggest that you vote no on this. Ask it to bring back in smaller chunks. And then you turn to people who approve this and ask them why they haven't actually done the things you have asked them to do in October. Thank you.
Gina Haynes, sorry.
Good evening, Dr. Clark, members of the board. I'm Gina Haynes. I own a home in the district. I have 2 kids. They went through Mount Diablo, and I've been very involved for the last 20 years. I'm still involved. On January 8th, 2018, staff brought forward action item 17.7, revision to board policy 5116.1, interdistrict open enrollment policy. Members Mayo, Durkee, Hanson, Lawrence, and Mason all voted yes to approve the policy. This recommendation changed the priority order of interdistrict transfers to recognize cohorts and students. Cohorts of students and academic pathways. It represented years of work in our community, including then Superintendent Meyer, staff, community members, parents, Walnut Creek Education Committee, pilot programs, and community meetings. And I'm not kidding when I say years, just to ask Mason and Mayo. Tonight, rather than adding new laws to our already adopted board policies, you want to adopt these new baseline policies, and we have to trust that you could manage adding years worth of work back into these baseline policies. And I and every other district parent in this district have to believe that you could manage this when you have not managed to keep track of it on Gamut. This board policy, the last one in Gamut, is in 2010. And then take, for example, this board policy 5116.1. After it was adopted on January 8th, 2018, you brought it back to the Board of Education for revisions using the wrong policy. Your red lines for the Board of Education on June 8th, 2020 used the wrong adopted policy. This is just one example. And there's this phase 2 that's coming that's going to add back all the work that you have done. But when? And who is going to manage that? Who has the institutional knowledge to make sure it gets back correctly? Please think again. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an example. Here is policy 5116.1. It was adopted January 8th, 2018, revised June 8th, 2020, September 14th, 2020, September 28th, 2020. This is where it's going to end up. This is just the first year, 2 years of board, first page of 2 years of board policy 5000. 2 years. Your work in the trash. Please don't adopt these baseline policies. Do it the correct way by adding the baseline laws to our already adopted policies. Thank you.
Sarah Boaz Shelley.
Hello. I'm coming here today to express my frustration with the possible outcome changing the interdistrict transfer process as well as the process.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little more into the microphone? I have a hard time hearing. Thank you.
I'm coming here today to express my frustration with the possible outcome of changing the interdistrict transfer policy as well as the process that we're going down now, and ask you not to pass board policy 5000 in its current form. My son is currently a 7th grader at Foothill Middle School, and he spent a great 6 years at Bancroft Elementary. We're part of the Bancroft split. We're one of the handful of families that get singled out each year to jump through hoops to not be separated from our community and our friends. The connections between the schools provide inspiration for students. For example, Foothill Middle School's band was invited to play with Northgate's marching band in November, and that was one of the highlights of the year for my son. And he came out of that event knowing the music teacher and felt welcomed by the high school students and excited to join marching band in high school, which was not his plan. And those connections are so important, and consistency is so important for our kids' well-being. I and countless others have spent a lot of time in board meetings in past years fighting for fixing the split and then the fallback, which was the cohort priority. And if you look in the school attendance boundaries policy in 5116, right before 51161, it calls out the importance of school feeder patterns and maintaining continuity of students' attendance because it's important to our kids' welfare. And this change in this policy seemed to come out of the blue. So I'm hearing it was from October and maybe earlier, but I would have expected the public to be engaged ahead of time, considering the impact this change has. I only learned at 1 p.m. today by word of mouth, and the day you're planning to vote on the change to the intra-district transfer process based on a 281-page document entitled Board Policy Student 5,000-Students. I don't know how a full-time parent is supposed to navigate this process or be engaged. So I ask you not to pass Board Policy 5,000 in its current form and bring back the changes you put in years ago to address the splitting up of kids from the community, or even better, fix an underlying Bancroft split. Thank you. Thank you.
Elizabeth Lambert.
Dr. Clark and members of the school board, my family has benefited from the hard work and persistence of friends and neighbors who have worked diligently to fix the Bancroft double split. I'd always had the belief that my children should bloom where they were planted and attend their neighborhood schools. But when my oldest daughter was in 5th grade, my friends convinced me it was in her best interest to remain with her cohort. I applied for the intra-district transfer for her, and she was able to go to Foothill and did well because of the cohort priority. 3 years later, she decided to go to her neighborhood school, high school. And this is when I really learned of the importance it is to stay with your cohort. The summer before her 9th grade year, her older brother passed away. And my daughter went to a new high school with no friends and having just lost her brother. It was just a really difficult experience for her, and she was suffering from depression. So a transfer was granted to her in November, and she was able to go to Northgate and have the support of friends to get through this challenging time, and she did very well. My next son is on the autistic spectrum, and although he's brilliant, he struggles to make friends, he struggles to recognize faces and to learn names. And I feel he's now a senior at Northgate. I feel it's been invaluable for him to remain with the same cohort from kindergarten through his senior year of high school. I have 4 children, so I'm sorry to make this so personal, but I just felt like it was important to demonstrate how sticking with a cohort can really help children. My second daughter, the isolation that she experienced during distance learning and a year and a half, the first year and a half of COVID, took a real toll on her mental and emotional health. Even last year, when she was able to return to 8th grade in person, she struggled emotionally and socially and had a terrible time making friends. Luckily, at the very end of the year, she made friends, and because of the intra-district transfer and because of cohort priority, she was able to move with her friends to Northgate. And this year has been a dream come true. Her mental and emotional health have improved, and she's finally has a good group of friends. And I attribute this to being able to transfer with her high schools and to remain with her friends. I now have a fifth grader who will be coming up with this to this dilemma of if he'll be able to remain with his cohort. And I have learned that friendships matter and that cohorts matter. And I'm hoping he will be able to stick with his cohort. I would encourage the board to not to pass policy 5,000. Thank you.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, just again, as I've said to the board, we're not doing anything with the transfer policies, but we need to move our entire board packet, our entire board agenda, all of the thousands. We need to get into the new space. We're not coming after, if their kids are scheduled to go to a particular school, that's not going to change. And so, again, I'm asking that we continue to move down this process and approve this next slate. And at the next meeting, we're bringing the 4,000s, and then we will be done. We can transfer over to the new, to the new platform, and then we have control of updating all of our policies and getting them where they need to be. But we have legal requirements aside. I sympathize for all the stories that they just shared. Nothing's going to happen to their students, but we have legal requirements that we have to do in terms of our policies. And that's what we've been trying to address for the last over a year. So.
Mason?
I'm assuming we have a plan of how we're going to integrate these two together.
Yes.
And the whole point of us moving this forward is we can't get to that step until we have everything in the system. Gina knows, everybody thought I was crazy when I took on the split. I'd never even heard of it coming from Bay Point. And so they said, oh, you're going to get beat up. And I did. People, anything you take on. So I'm committed because I got beat up over that and I fought for it to make sure it stays in there. And I think all of us are committed, as Dr. Clark said, there are specific things very specific to us like that we're going to make sure transfer over. But your first thing with throwing everything in the trash is why we're heading in that direction, because you're right. Sometimes you go on Gamut and I'm like, that's not the current policy. So we're trying to get there where when you look at what's online, it is going to be current and it is going to be in the language that they're using throughout the state, but with our specifics in it. Does that seem accurate to you? Okay. Any other?
I'm sorry that there's been a confusion about this, to the public, as we've tried to grapple with this whole process. It's unfortunate that the word got out that we were changing our transfer policy when that's actually not what we're doing tonight. So I'm sorry for people who felt that they needed to come and speak on that because it appeared that that's what was happening tonight. But to speak to the part where I was quoted earlier on the dates and the changes, my understanding is that what the dates are of what we're passing tonight, those are CSBA dates of when they updated them when there were changes in state law, right? And so those are not our dates. So that's why I think the public is not going to see those dates and those dates are not going to match up with our board meetings, right? So what I'm expecting to see, what I think I'm understanding correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, is that one of the problems with Gamut right now is that we are on the old system, but Gamut is in the new system, Gamut being the platform that this is all on. And so even the last few years of updates that we've made are not on the website where the public can see them right now. We have them on file in the office, but the public can't see them. We want to get everything onto the new updated Gamut website so the public can see them and that they're all updated meeting state law. So this is step one. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong in explaining this, because it is complicated, but phase one, we already passed, the 1,000s and the 3,000s and the 6, 7, 8s, right? We're already mid of this process. Tonight, we're doing the 0s, 2s, and 5s. Once we do the 4s, then everything can be uploaded into the new platform system. It can be online where everyone can see it and where we are meeting state law, because we have all the new state laws already integrated into all of those policies. And then phase two, my understanding is that's when we will make sure, because I'm hearing a lot of concern that we're going to lose some of the specific policies that people have worked on for Mount Diablo. And my understanding is that phase two is when all of those details will be integrated back in to the policies, and then everyone will be able to, the public will be able to see it again. And then also just to repeat what Dr. Clark has said tonight, that there will not be changes to the transfer policy. Like if you're looking at where your kid's going to school this fall, nothing is going to change in terms of our procedures, the website, what the website says as far as the procedures are the procedures. We're not voting on those kinds of changes. We're voting on legal updates. Is there anything I said that was incorrect?
No, I just want to just, forewarn this board that once we get through with this process, once we get the 4,000s adopted, we're going to have a standing item on every single board meeting where we are giving first reads and second reads on our policies and action items and whatnot, because we have a lot of updates that we need to make to our policies and we're not able to. So I am recommending that we go ahead and approve as is. I just shared in my board report that we're already planning for next year. So we're not going to change our transfer policy like in the middle of January when we're already planning and staffing and enrolling kids in the school next year. So I understand the concern that folks may have that this is going to happen, but this is not what we're not going down that road. We're updating our policies to be in legal compliance so we can get this work done with CSBA and move forward. So again, I've said it multiple times, and we've been, like I said, we've been working on this for well over a year.
For all of my time here. It's been a slow process.
Yeah.
Because we've had to deal with so many
The
other
CSBA,
things. Yeah.
the slowdown has been on the part of CSBA throughout this process due to COVID.
Right.
because
That's what I'm saying.
they have been working remotely, even when we've been back for, over a year. CSBA has really been slow to return to full staff in the office. So again, this isn't our doing by what staff hasn't done here. This has been a CSBA slowdown.
I think, does anyone else have any comment? Are we good? I just want to say this is just another example of, it is an example of progress. I think we're doing the right thing. I know we're doing the right thing. I have no doubt. And we come into it with an understanding, but we've seen it before. We're just, for whatever reason, the understanding that the community has is not correct. But there's nowhere that we offer the clarity until we're in our board meeting. And so I just think it's just a lesson, that's all. Because this isn't the first time that there's been angst over something. We're like, what? That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're voting on. And it's not just stuff like this. It's like the radio station or whatever. So thank you for providing that clarity. I don't know why my computer keeps locking, but like with everything. Thank you for that clarity. And just for us, if we think about in the future, there are things that somehow get misinterpreted, rumors spread, that how we can, squash it before it becomes a bigger thing than it is, and we stress people out. Trustee Mason, Mayo.
I think Dr. Clark will nod his head very much when I say I have communicated with him many times over the proposed changes and policies. I, at this point, am going to trust him that we will bring these back. I did predict your presence here before you even communicated with us, because I know how important the cohort transfer policy was. So like Mrs. Mason, we will make sure that it's brought forward. And I believe so far, this is the first group that has come forward regarding a particular policy from the parents in the community. So maybe this would be the first one that we consider when we get it when we finish with the 4,000s, get CSBA on board and we start the process. But I can't promise that yet. I'm only one person that would make that suggestion.
But having her said that, we will try to get, if we drop one, I'm sure we'll hear about it, but we're not going to fix this one because you're here. Everybody's that they're interested in will get changed and updated unless somebody falls asleep at the wheel, which now I can't do that because I just obligated myself to make sure that doesn't happen. Having said that, I will make a motion to approve the updated policies and regulations for categories 0000, philosophy, goals, objectives, and comprehensive plans, 2000 administrative. Who is jumping around my computer here? I think we have like some kind of a gremlin in here tonight or something. Gina, are you doing something to my computer out here?
I know it left.
It's changed. Okay, as presented, how about that?
Yeah. Can I get a second?
Second.
Trustee Nava Flores.
Yes.
I'm back on call of order.
Where are we? Wait,
We're
Okay.
just not synced here.
Okay.
On the computer.
Just hit sync and it. No, this is.
that is synced.
Wait a minute. This is Interdistrict enrollment. We're gonna go out.
Laura, we're having technical difficulties, or should we do a voice vote?
Yes.
Oh, it's up, but it's, okay, there it is. Now it's right. Here we go. Vote, everybody.
Join.
Here comes trustee Mayo,
Here we go.
and that passes unanimously. 18.8, established Board of Committee assignments for 2023. Thank you to everybody for telling me what we want. Should I like just say it? Or what our assignments are? Is that cool? Trustee Mayo, were you, I'll say it out loud and then you can tell me if you had any, because I think you're the only one I didn't hear from. So we have a gazillion committees. Audit Committee is myself and Vice President McFerrin. Facilities Real Estate is Trustee Mason and myself. Budget Committee is Trustee Mayo and myself. Career Pathways and Technical Educational Advisory is Trustee Mayo and Trustee Cond. The CAC is Trustee Mayo and Trustee McFerrin. The DLAC is Trustee Mason and Trustee Cond. The ABAR, Anti-Bias, Anti-Racist, is me, myself, and Trustee Mason. Board Oversight is Trustee Mayo and Trustee McFerrin. Representation to the Contra Costa County School Boards Association is Trustee Mayo. Mount Diablo Council PTAs is Trustee Mayo and Trustee Cond. The Parent Advisory is Trustee McFerrin and Trustee Mason. And School Climate is Trustee Mason and myself. Budget on yours. Facilities and Real Estate is Mason,
Bond oversight.
but Bond Oversight is Trustee Mayo and McFerrin. Are we cool? If we're, I wanted to make sure everybody's happy. Or at least satisfied.
Well, I just wanted to ask if our, no. I know that you all are assigned to sites, but, and maybe Cesar can help with this. Can the student trustee attend any of these? So that, we don't have to post as a quorum with having 3 members there.
She can attend, yes, she can attend like any of the meetings that the board has as well.
And the meetings are noticed.
Okay, thank you. All right, now, just wanted to make sure.
Love
Just-
it.
Just clarification on that, when, I mean, we also are all welcome to attend all the meetings. It's just when there's more than two of us, only the two people can speak, right? So it does that, is that also true? Would she be the third? Would they be the third in this situation? Okay. They, sorry. Thank you, and apologies for our pronoun confusion. They, thank you.
Is there a
I would
motion?
make a motion that we approve the board assignments as presented.
Is there a second?
Second?
Trustee Nava Flores,
Yes.
or did you want to make a change?
No.
Oh, good. That passes unanimously. Yay. New year, new us. Okay. Future agenda items? Anything anyone would like to propose? Anything that Dr. Clark is looking forward to?
I will be sharing in my superintendent's reports. I will tie them to my evaluations. And also I'm committing to this board that and to the team and Ms. Sachs in particular, that every board meeting we will be sharing some sort of student data to make sure that, and again, we'll share it in very accessible format, but then also have links on the website to where folks want to take a more deeper dive to that. So we're going to calendar that out and make sure that we have, it may not be as an in-depth presentation as what we had tonight, but there will be data shared at every meeting just to continue with our commitment to transparency and keeping the focus on students.
Fab. Anything else? With that, are we good?
Look out.
All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.